The Board of Trustees for Beaumont Unified School District will reconvene in open session. And I would like to ask Mr. San Martin to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. San Martin. All right. At this time, I will open the floor for public testimony. During meetings of the Board of Trustees, members of the public have an opportunity to comment on items that appear on the agenda or items that do not appear on the agenda but are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Individual speakers shall be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda or non-agenda item. The board shall limit the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. Speakers may not yield or donate their time to another speaker. With board consent, the president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation depending on the topic and the number of persons wishing to be heard. The president may take a poll of the speakers for or against a particular topic and may ask additional persons to speak if they have something new to add. Public comment from Mr. Barry Steele.
Hello, Barry Still. I'm the boys varsity soccer coach at Beaumont High School. This is my 25th year coaching here, and I would like to address our pay. I was told that we will get a tentative agreement and that we had shopped 2%, which would still keep us as the lowest paid in the league by quite a distance, which I know you know because we've given you those numbers. And we would like to get to 3%, which is just fair compensation. We would be in the middle of the league. I know for me, I would still be, I think, 5th of 6 teams in our league. As an alumni of Beaumont High School and someone that's been in the math department, avid, CTE, filled in as administrator, PE department, social science department, teaching history, I can tell you that athletics is by far the most impactful culture changer on our campus. And we currently have about 1,500 student athletes. Every program is above a 3.0 GPA. Nearly 50% of our students are scholar athletes, meaning they're 3.5. We just changed the culture on campus. And we're frequently told that we love you guys and you do such amazing things, but then I know I've come here before and spoken. We are the lowest paid and have been the lowest paid for at least 20 years since I've been tracking this. And we've given you the numbers and showed you that we're the lowest paid and given you the district breakdowns from the districts we compete in. And we were told we would get 2% and we would take it out of the teacher's salary and healthcare, which will never pass. I'm a teacher myself and I wouldn't vote for it. That's obviously not going to be beneficial to the teachers because there's a lot more of them than us. So I feel like it's something that's a culture changer and it very much so impacts our students, but it's not even about, I think it would be, if we got a 3% raise, it would be less than $1,000. It's not going to change my life in any way, shape, or form. It's more the principle of the matter that we are the lowest paid and we consistently have stayed the lowest paid all 6 years we've been in the league and in the 2 leagues before that, and it's been addressed multiple times with the board, and we're still the lowest paid and will remain the lowest paid. Even if we got a 2% raise, we would remain the lowest paid in the league. So I think it's just a principle thing. I think we're a gem or a jewel in the community as a one high school town, and I think we do amazing things on campus and change young people's lives, more so than other things, and we are really just year-round. I could show up and interact with my kids for 3 months, we would probably not win a game. Every one of my seniors is going to college. We were Division I this year in CIF, and we won league for the 4th time in 6 years. We're interacting with kids year-round, and it would be cool to get compensated for that work. Thank you for your time.
A quick point of clarification, you're speaking about the stipends that are within the BCA?
Stipends just for coaches. Yeah, so just the stipends for coaches. I know it gets lumped in with other things, but no one else is working year-round with, like, just to answer your question, yeah, stipends for coaches, like other stipends, I was up here every day during Christmas break but Christmas. I was up here Thanksgiving break except Thursday. I was up here February break. I'll be up here in the summer. We're doing spring stuff. Like, we're with our kids year-round, so it's a stipend just for coaches, and I know it gets lumped with, like, stipends for clubs. I promise those people are not here during Christmas break or February break or Thanksgiving break or the summer. So, yeah, just stipends for coaches.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Steele. Shelley Waldron.
Hello, I will be speaking on the same topic. Our athletic program not only supports our student athletes physically, socially, and mentally, but for our girls specifically, our programs have the potential to build confidence and leadership skills that stay with them long after their final buzzer at BHS. Over 90% of women who hold leadership positions in their field attribute many of their successes to their athletic backgrounds. I personally attribute all of my own successes and skills to experiences gained from BHS athletics and countless coaches, many of which are still at the school, who poured time and energy into building me up. I had a collegiate career as a dual sport athlete with academic scholarships, hold a master's degree, am a professor at California Baptist University, and a doctoral candidate completing my PsyD in sport and performance psychology. My time as a Cougar prepared me for life, and I now have the opportunity to pour into the next generation of student athletes as the girls' basketball coach. If you value these coaches as I and the thousands of other student athletes who have benefited from their time, expertise, and encouragement do, you would pay them, and now us, fairly. As an early professional with all the excitement and energy to pour into my team, it's sad that I have to seriously financially consider the cut that I'm taking to be able to support my girls. This is an athletically and academically competitive program with all teams over 3.0 GPA and simply deserves properly paid coaches. Confidence, resilience, discipline, and leadership, all skills beyond the X's and O's of sports. As of now, our coaches aren't being properly paid for the X's and O's, much less the priceless guidance, mentorship, and dedication to their sport and athletes. It is my understanding that you all have the numbers and stats, you just aren't taking us seriously. Our coaches won't walk out, we won't quit, we won't make a scene because none of us are here for the money, obviously. You have the upper hand as these coaches have been significantly underpaid, undervalued, and underappreciated by you dating back 20 years as the lowest paid coaches in our league. We are here today to simply ask that you take us seriously, to value the work we are doing and acknowledge the impact we are making both on and off the competitive field. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Ms. Waldron. Item 8.1, approve the recommended action for student discipline case 202-526-14.
I move approval.
I'll second. David?
That's me.
Yes. You can be the second, because we went at the same time.
Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. And the motion carries. Item 9.1, report out of closed session. Mr. Sanchez.
Give me 1 second here. Pursuant to Education Code Section 49070, I am reporting on action taken during closed session regarding item 5.2, Records Challenge. In closed session, the board took the following actions. The challenge was denied. Upon consideration of the information presented in the matter of the records challenge, the board made a motion by myself, David Sanchez, seconded by President Jeff Brown, to deny the challenge by a vote of 4 with 1 absent. The board finds the information in the record to be accurate and was recorded in accordance with established policies. End of my report.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Item 9.2, receive a report from student board member Caden Alderson.
Good evening, everyone. I'm excited to share our secondary school site's great events, activities, and accomplishments. First, we go to Mountain View Middle School. The Mountain View Middle School Cougar Jazz Band delivered an outstanding performance at Beaumont High School. A special congratulations to the boys volleyball team for their teamwork and win against the Summerwind Trail School. Congratulations to the students who were recognized at the 7th Annual Beaumont Unified School District Film Festival. Students and staff enjoyed their time during the house rallies, which included staff versus students, basketball games, performance by the flag cheer, and stepper students. 8th grade students enjoyed a trip learning about the nation's capital as well as exploring New York City. Congratulations to the Cougar girls flag football team on their 20-6 victory over Summerwind Trail School. This school's National Junior Society participated in the City of Beaumont Cleanup Day. Students competed at the SoCal Health Occupation Students of America competition, with 6 of the participants advancing to the round 2 in the areas of life-threatening situations, foundations of healthy living, and veterinary sciences. Next, we move on to San Gorgonio Middle School. Ezio Camarino represented Beaumont Unified School District at the Riverside County Spelling Bee competition and placed 3rd place. He was pictured alongside the Spelling Bee coordinator, Mrs. Vasquez. Assistant Principal Mrs. Rivera hosted an egg hunt to encourage a positive school environment. Students and staff searched for eggs throughout the school day. Students attended a VFW event at Sun Lakes, where 4 students earned prizes for their essay submissions in the Patriots Pen Essay Contest. Also, Ms. Gail Reed was selected as the VFW Teacher of the Year. A team of students competed in an underwater robotics competition at the Inland Empire Sea Perch 2026 competition held at University of California, Riverside. The school's team won 2nd place overall and earned 1st and 2nd place for the underwater mission course category. On to Summerwind Trails. 8th grade Summerwind Trail School's girls visited the University of Redlands as part of the American Association of University Women Leadership Orientation. The girls' basketball team performed exceptionally well throughout the entire season. Congratulations Emma Applegate, Kennedy Meander, and Devin Bailey for being recognized as the top 3 finalists at the school at the 7th Annual Film Festival. The theater, arts, and choir students participated in an educational workshop led by Disney Imagineers. On to Beaumont High School. The Beaumont High School hosted the incoming 9th grade students to provide them a campus tour. The school hosts the Youth Empowered Stewardship Conference, where students from the Riverside County Office of Education, Moreno Valley Regional Learning Center, and Beaumont High School students work together to find solutions to community challenges. Students attended the elective rush, where different courses are on display like a career fair at Summerwind Trails. The Beaumont High School drumline competed in 2 competitions and placed 3rd in the novice division at Martin Luther King High School and placed 1st at Ramona High School. On to Glenview. Glenview High School AVID program had a guest speaker from the Universal Technical Institute to encourage college and career exploration. The school will have its first all-girls football team. Special thanks to Ms. Romero for the coaching. The school welcomed the newest member to the Coyote family for the 4th quarter. Current students support new students by explaining what it means to be a committed Coyote and how to earn Coyote kudos. On the 21st Century Learning Institute. Yeah. 21st Century Learning Institute students participated in the district chess competition at San Gorgonio Middle School. The Cyclone Social Club has continued to integrate fun interactive STEM lessons, or STEAM lessons, for each month. On to Beaumont Middle College. The Beaumont Middle College high school students were on a field trip to UCLA and the Getty Museum to explore potential future college and career plans, as well as discover art history up close. Students participated in the Best Foundations Night of the Stars art competition. Congratulations to the BMCHS students who received first place and second place for their artwork. Ave students volunteered and tabled at the district's literature fair last month. The students supported by handing out information on how literature supports college readiness, welcoming community members, and supporting authors and district personnel. On to Beaumont Adult School. Congratulations to the Beaumont Adult School High School equivalency graduate Ladarius Brooks. Ladarius will now be enrolling in the phlebotomy program at Beaumont Adult School to pursue a career in the medical field. Medical assistant students complete hands-on CPR certification requirements, a vital skill for frontline healthcare providers. Vocational nursing students from Class 41 practice essential personal safety equipment protocols, such as safely putting on gloves and medical garments. As always, thank you to all of our parents, families, and staff. This concludes the presentation on events and activities taking place at our secondary school sites.
Thank you, Caden. Item 9.3, we will receive a report from our superintendent, Ms. Kakish, on the district calendar for the months of April and May.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'll start my report by acknowledging on March 23rd, Mountain View School opened 4 fully furnished classrooms, restrooms, and had upgraded a lot of the ADA travel pathways. $3.5 million project that was made possible by 2008 Measure Z bond. On March 26th, the district hosted the 7th Annual Film Festival Award Night. Okay. Just going on. I can talk about the film festival while they're putting the slides on. It was like an Oscar performance. It was so beautiful. The students, along with some of our employees that competed for through filmmaking, had done a great job. We could not stop laughing for some of these comedy videos. Our staff did awesome, led by Lanny. I know April had a big supportive role in this. So I want to thank all of the staff members that were involved in putting that event on. It was top notch, the best in the 7 that I have, well, 5 I have seen. There was 2 before I came on board. I could not stop talking about it. So thank you all for working on that. Really an event that was participated, 100 students participated in the actual competition. They were also professional. They looked really good. And of course, this event doesn't happen without a lot of sponsorships and donations from our supporters and partners. So thank you all. Scholars on Vacation, led by Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, operated on March 30th to April 3rd. The free program served breakfast, lunch, and supper over the holiday break, spring break. Activities included hands-on activities and cooking and fitness. And on to award recognitions. We have several. We are so proud of all of our members that are being recognized. We'll start with RACSM, which is a chapter for AXA, which is an associations for school administrators. Summer Wind Trails Elementary School Principal, Dr. Mary Sines, will receive the Middle School of the Year Award on April 27th by RACSM. I don't know if Mary's here. And then Mosaic Foundation, the Inclusivity Excellence Award on April 30th will be received by none other than Assistant Superintendent of HR, Jennifer Castillo. For California Continuation Education Award, Candy Romero, Teacher of the Year, Taryn Lohr, Classified of the Year, CTE Medical Pathway Exemplary Program Award, Dr. Benicia Carr, Administrator of the Year. I will be recognized as Superintendent of the Year. I'm humbly, very, very honored to receive. And Glenview High School will receive Model High School Continuation. We're so proud of the whole team. And for AXA Region 19, our Administrators of the Year will be Jennifer Castillo, Assistant Superintendent of HR, and Dr. Eben Brown, Superintendent of Instruction Support Services, and Gabby Toledo, Director of Special Education. So proud of all of them. It is, I mean, it's been 5 years. I haven't seen this number of recognitions for our district. I think every year our staff have just gone above and beyond to put Beaumont on the map of Riverside County and the map of the state. So proud of all of our staff, led by the best governance team. On to upcoming events. I am so sincere when I say that. I'm just not saying that in front of you, by the way. On April 16th through 26th, we will have the Hairspray musical. So I keep reminding you of buying tickets, so make sure you get your tickets. It's going to be a show that you don't want to miss. Cap and gown distribution will be on April 17th. I can't believe we're planning for graduations already. We're in April. April 22nd will be a special study session for our Board of Trustees to discuss facilities planning. And then on to May, because we only have one board meeting in April, we're going to give you just a little peek for things that are coming up in May. May 12th will be our regular board meeting. May 15th will be retirement and recognition dinner. Before that, May 23rd, I think, is another regular board meeting. And then May 27th will be Palm Innovation Academy ribbon cutting for the kitchen and the shade structure. I'm so proud of that project. And that is it for the report and the calendar event, Mr. President.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kakish. All right, item 10.1, approve the consent agenda. Items prepared for consent agenda are items consistent with adopted and approved policies of the district and are deemed routine in nature. They will be acted upon in a single motion without discussion unless any member of the Board of Trustees requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda. In that event, it will be taken up in the order indicated on the main agenda. Would anyone like to remove an item? I would like to remove agenda item 10.4, please. Okay, and with that, can I get a motion?
I'll move to approve consent agenda items 10.2, 10.3, and 10.5. I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. And the motion carries. All right. Item 11.1, approve the travel request for list dated April 7th, 2026. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move approval. I'll second.
Discussion? So I have an interest in this travel request, so I'll be abstaining. Yeah.
Oh.
Call for the vote? And the motion carries. Item 12.1, receive an update from Highland Academy Charter School.
Good evening. Thank you very much. Good evening, Superintendent Kakish, President Brown, members of the board, cabinet, colleagues, and community. My name is Nathan Camara, and I serve as the Director of Fiscal Services here for Beaumont Unified. Tonight, we have two guests, both of our charter schools here. We have Highland Academy Charter School and Mission Vista Academy that will be providing updates to the board. And to start today, we're joined by Mr. Billy McIntosh, who serves as the Director for Highland Academy Charter School. So I'll go ahead and I will bring him up to the podium.
Good evening. Thank you for having us this evening during this board meeting. I was here about a year ago under slightly more stressful circumstances, getting our charter renewed. I'm glad to be here again to share some of the exciting things that have been going on with our school over the last year. I'm joined this evening by our Assistant Director, Miss Elizabeth Boucher, and then Mr. Terrence Lee, our CFO, our CBO. He was not able to join us, but he was also helped me prepare this presentation. We understand that when you renewed our charter last year, there was a lot of trust that went into that, and I want to assure you we don't take that trust for granted. There we go. So on the screen right now is our school's mission statement. It hasn't changed in a couple years, but really I think the statement, we pride ourselves in helping students find their strengths, really is the key at what we do at Highland Academy. We really invite students to bring their strengths, their talents, whatever they may be, whatever form they may take, and see what Highland Academy can add to it. We do receive a lot of students who have struggled in more traditional school settings throughout Beaumont and surrounding communities, and the program that we're offering them, the flexibility that we provide, I really feel that is a key in helping these students thrive and find their genius, as we say. In the top photo there, that's our boys flag football team. Reason I put that photo is not just with that team, but with all our sports team. This year alone, we've had the most participation that we've ever had at Highland Academy. We've had more students try out for teams. We've had more students suited up. And we've been able to field a team for every sport with every single time. And that has not always been the case. With only 340 students, sometimes we struggle finding interest, finding just bodies at times, but this year that definitely has not been an issue. The lower right-hand corner, that's a photo of our advanced theater class. Earlier this year, we were able to go to Orange County and see the play The Wiz. And then at the end, we had the really amazing surprise of meeting the main actor, The Wiz himself, who talked with our kids, were inspiring them, encouraging them to follow their passion, and that really was a very memorable event for our students. So again, we have some really incredible things happening at Highland Academy despite our small size. And I'm going to put our little pitch in here as well. Our advanced theater class is doing their play here at the Beaumont High School Theater May 6th through the 8th. They're performing High School Musical. My daughters are very excited about that. I can't say I really know a lot about it, but I can tell you the amount of effort and work going on is going to make it amazing. About 5 years ago, Miss Whitford came to us with the idea of doing musicals instead of just regular plays. And at the time, I thought she was a little bit maybe ambitious, but 5 years later, she's proven me and all the doubters wrong. And so if you're able to join us May 6th through the 8th at Beaumont High School Theater, we put on a really good production. This is our current staff at Highland Academy, and without them, there's no Highland Academy, and I can say that with certainty. Our staffing levels have remained pretty constant over the years, with the exception of an added certificated teacher, a special education teacher, to work with the increase of special education students that we're getting at our school. And we're really happy with that change, and I think that's going to continue to work for us. We're projected to stay at the same staffing level for next school year. And again, in our hiring, we're really looking for versatile teachers who can work with any kind of kid, who really have a passion for teaching and for students. And I think with this group right here, we really have found them. So again, I cannot express my appreciation for that group enough. So here are our enrollment numbers for this year and our projections moving forward. Currently, we have 317 students at our school. So our capacity, our max capacity is 340. So that basically, there's currently 23 unfilled seats at our school. A large part of this is due to the changing dynamics of students who are applying for our school. When I first started at Highland Academy in 2015, we were basically a middle school only school, and we had a very small elementary homeschool with I think maybe a dozen students. As I've been there and as time has passed, the demand and the interest in our elementary program has gone wild. The vast majority of applications that we receive are for the elementary grade levels, and so we are adjusting as needed. And so moving forward to 26, 27, we're anticipating having full capacity. We've received 110 applications for next year already. All grade levels are projected to be full, with the exception of 6th grade, which we will have 15 openings that we're going to be trying to fill between now and August next school year. So right now we're 60% middle school and about 40% elementary. But again, being that the demand for elementary is so high, we're really looking to increase our capacity at the elementary level. And so that really is a focus of ours. We have waiting lists at every grade level again, except for 6th grade. And again, back in 2015, that was not an issue. We had 6th grade applications coming from everywhere. This year, it's a struggle. There's a lot more competition, a lot more charter schools. The district has opened up several very quality schools that have 6th grade. And so we're adjusting. And so our focus really is filling those empty seats, making sure we're at 340 students, and increasing our capacity in elementary. As far as our student groups, we've seen a steady increase in our Hispanic student group. That's increased dramatically since I first started. We were about 30%. Now we're close to half of our student population belonging to that group. Our SED, our socioeconomically disadvantaged group, that also has increased dramatically. Back again, 2015, we were about 20%. Now we're close to 40%. So we've almost doubled that group. And again, I mentioned this earlier, but our students with disabilities, we have 42 students, or about 13% of our population. We've seen a very steady increase with all 3 of those student groups. Here is our financial summary. Last year, we had a surplus of $164,000. This year, we're forecasting to have a surplus of $19,000. And then next year, slightly higher than that, than $22,000. Part of that dip, actually the big reason for that dip is because of those empty seats that I mentioned earlier. And so moving forward, when we get those seats filled, we expect our surplus for 26, 27 to be significantly higher. Again, in budgeting, we don't want to just assume. We have to do the work. We have to get those seats filled first. But we anticipate our surplus for 26, 27 being significantly higher as we fill those seats. So our ending balance for this year is going to be roughly 74% of our overall expenses. As a very small charter school, we understand the importance of maintaining financial flexibility so we can respond to unexpected expenses. So that always is a focus of the administrative team and our school board, and it's something we definitely discuss every single month at our board meetings as well. This is a snapshot of our dashboard. Our chronic absenteeism, as you can see in the upper left-hand square or rectangle right there, is in the orange. That is currently we're at 16.4%. That's an increase from last year of about 2.7%. And it's kind of funny because our ADA is actually higher this year, but our chronic absenteeism is also a little bit higher. And I think I know why, but we're working through it, and we're talking about some solutions to that. Our suspension rate is pretty much the same. It has increased 0.4% from last year. And then I'll talk about the language arts scores on the next slides, and math scores. And as you can see, our local indicators show the standard has been met. So this slide shows a year-to-year comparison of our language arts scores. In 23-24, 44% of our students met or exceeded the standard. This year we were 39.9, so close to 40%. So we saw a dip of about 4.78% from 23-24 to 24-25. Our math scores, again, the side-by-side comparison, 23-24, we were at about 26%. And then 24-25, we were at 22.87. So we saw a drop of about 3% there as well. And this last slide right here shows the school to state performance comparison. So we're below the state average by about 9% or 8.9% in language arts and about 14% in math. In looking at these scores, it was very easy to become discouraged. However, you know, when we get data is data, and data doesn't lie, and it is what it is. And so we're taking it and we're breaking down our program piece by piece to see what we can do to make that better. So really, some solutions that we've come up with in addressing these is we're re-examining our curriculum. We're forming a committee with all stakeholders, teachers, administrators, and parents. We're seeing if what we have in place is actually working, and if not, what other solutions are there. We're revisiting our diagnostic program that we're using. Up to this point in time, we've been using Curriculum Associates iReady, and we like that. And when we do the internal testing, we are actually much, much closer to state averages. But then when the state test comes, we see the dip. And so ideally, we would want our diagnostic testing to mirror what our state testing is, as much as possible anyways. And so we're examining that, see if there's other solutions out there that could give us a better indication of what our students have learned. And some areas of focus, so most of these I've already talked about in the previous slides. I did want to emphasize a few. Maintaining small class sizes continues to be a priority for us. It's very tempting, especially when we're down students and we have empty seats, to just load students in. But we really are committed to the thought process that the students are most successful when they have one-on-one interaction with their teachers. And so we really are focused on keeping those class sizes small so teachers can work with their students one-on-one. The special education services is a big one for us. As a small charter school, we don't have an in-house like occupational therapist and a speech language pathologist. So it really becomes necessary for us to contract out with NPAs to get these services done. It's been hit or miss. If I can be honest, some NPAs are better than others, and I'm sure that comes as no surprise. But I can say that the team that we have now in place is absolutely fantastic, and I would say there's absolutely no drop-off from what a student at a larger school or a larger district would receive than students at Highland Academy are receiving. And then our campus, we love our campus. It's old, it has character, there's a lot of repairs and upgrading that need to happen, but I think if you were to stop by, and this is actually on the next slide, there's been a lot of upgrades and a lot of improvements that would make the district proud. So as far as some highlights, as I mentioned, our increased attendance, so our chronic absenteeism is actually up, but so is our ADA. We did increase our ADA, and so what that tells us as an administrative team and as a board is that we have more students who are coming to school, but our chronic absenteers, or whatever we want to call them, our frequent flyers, they're still a continued problem. And so we are working with RCOE in Riverside County and trying to figure out how we can get these students to school. Because if students are not in school, they're not learning, quite simply. We've expanded our middle school elective classes, and as you can tell, we have quite the variety there. We want students to have a class that's enjoyable, that helps them find their genius and gets them even out of their comfort zone a little bit. And so this is a good start, but we're already at this point in the year looking for new electives that we can offer our students. I'm really proud of the family engagement that we've had this year. We've had the best attendance that we've ever had at board meetings, at sporting events, and school activities. So we continue to advertise those. We continue to encourage parents to come, and so far we've seen the fruits of that labor. And then lastly, like I mentioned just previously, campus looks great. We have all sorts of upgrades and repairs and things that have needed to happen, that we wanted to happen, and we have more on the horizon. So that, I believe, well, I have a really cool picture I have to show you. So that really is the end of my presentation. Here we have a lot of our elementary program with, I think it's Harold and Holly Husky. And I can tell you that the students at Highland Academy are thriving. And again, we're grateful for your trust, and I think we're putting on a really good program for our kids.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And at this time, we will receive a report from Mission Vista Academy Charter School.
So I would just like to welcome Ms. Amy Davis, who serves as the Executive Director, and Dr. Erica Vanderspeck, who serves as the Deputy Executive Director for Mission Vista Academy.
Hello, thank you for having us tonight. We're excited to be back and tell you about our school. I'm Amy, and this is Erica. We're from Mission Vista Academy. Oh. Okay, so most of you know about Mission Vista Academy. We're a personalized independent study school, and we're serving mostly Riverside County kids and a little bit around there. And our kids are customizing their learning through community partnerships and different curriculum, and they get to really work on their strengths. So I won't read that to you. Okay, we have grown since we've seen you guys last. So our school has currently 501 employees. That's all of our departments. For our general education teachers, we have 280 and 114 special education teachers. So this is our general ed teachers at an all-staff PD a year ago. Yeah. Okay, so currently we have 7,730 kids, and we are projecting 8,100 next year. Yeah, 8,100. These are our demographics, so you can see what our school is made up of. Okay.
And here's our financial summary. Our revenue and our expenses have gone up because our enrollment has gone up, but we're still projecting a surplus and going into next year looking strong. There we go. Sure. Yeah. And then this is a snapshot of our dashboard. So we're making progress and moving up in some colors. And then our ELA CAS progress from year to year, we have grown by almost 3%. So we're proud of that. We're working hard. And then our math, we made a little progress, eked that out, and every bit counts. And then we have a comparison on the next slide to the state. So we are performing above the state average in ELA by a hair. And with math, although we've been making progress, we're still a little below the state average. That's just an area of focus for us. We have targeted interventions. We have a platform called Exact Path, where students are taking a diagnostic and working on their exact areas of focus. And then we have some goals.
Yeah, so our areas of focus are, of course, we want to increase our achievement on the CASP in language arts and math, and we've done so many things in our school with our student support and intervention programs, targeted instruction groups, what else? Intervention classes, just a lot of working with our kids that need extra support. And we also want to increase our college and career readiness by 3 percentage points. We have some high school highlights. High school is something that we're always working on. We worked really hard with our 8th graders to get them to stay with us. And we're happy that we had 92% graduation rate last year. A lot of our high school students are taking community courses at the college, and they're passing. So we're excited about that. And we have National Junior Society and National Honor Society. Our kids are really involved, and they're staying with us, so we're excited about that.
And then we have a small population of English learners, 88, but they were performing green on the dashboard. So we're happy to see that, and we've been working hard on reclassification and some targeted classes, as well as Lexia. So our students have been engaging and reclassifying. We have a biliteracy recognition pathway that 700 students are enrolled in, and they are studying 23 different languages through that program. And then our special education population has been growing as well. We have 988 students that have IEPs. 805 of them have mild moderate needs, and 183, which has been growing, have extensive support needs. We provide special education services in a variety of ways. It is what the IEP team has decided is most appropriate. So we have virtual services, we have in-person, and the whole gamut. We also have built out an adult transition program with job coaching and life skills that we're proud of as well.
We have lots of community building at our school just because of the way that our model is. We need to be able to bring people together and let them have a community. So we have park days throughout all of our service areas every month where the kids and families come. There's lots of academic field trips where they get to go do hands-on learning. Our high school students have special things. They have meetups, and they also will meet for their National Honor Society and do different activities for that. We had a multicultural fair. We've had it for a few years, actually, where the families will set up different booths, and we invite everybody, and there's all kinds of different, there's like food and what else? It's a big celebration, yeah.
Regalia and costumes.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
The outfits and everything. And then we do an annual awards ceremony. So that's coming up for us this year, where we honor different things in our school for our students and their families to come to. And we have lots and lots of parent support. So we have to help them since they're working with their kids so much. We have Parent University and parent support. We have book clubs that meet every week and they study different books together. Parent night outs where they come to talk with our family liaisons and other parents. And then we had a really big high school expo this year, where it was for our current high school students and anyone interested, and also our 8th graders, where they could come and get their high school plan and talk to people, and there were different sessions and workshops. We had maybe 450 people attend that, so that was exciting for us.
And then we've been working with the NCUST, it's the National Center for Urban School Transformation, and our leadership team has been getting professional development on raising achievement. And through that program, we qualified for their honor roll, so America's Best School honor roll for 2026, and we achieved that because our students in the low socioeconomic demographic category outperformed the state average in math and language arts for high school. So we were proud to make that honor roll. And I think that is our last slide, but we just wanted to thank you for your support so that we're able to serve these students. And we're looking forward to seeing more of you next year as we go into our renewal season, as our charter is expiring on June 30th, 2027. So we'll work with Mr. Kamara and going through the renewal process. So thank you again for your support.
Thank you.
You know what, I have a question.
Thank you so much. Wait, hold
I
on,
have
sorry.
some questions, a couple questions for you. Can I just say, do you know how many Beaumont Beaumont's, start over.
The residents, right?
Beaumont students you have?
We think it's close, just under 400. We have not checked this week. But
So when you have your awards and where you have your events and stuff, where do you have those?
We rent facilities like Pachanga Arena or a community center, maybe in Riverside. We've used Riverside Community College. So we rent facilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
We try to find a central
Yes.
place so that they'll drive in.
Okay.
You mentioned something in one of the slides, so carrying on with what Susie said, you mentioned something in one of the slides about how you have regular park, like we meet at a park. Does that happen in Beaumont, or is that do our local students have to travel for that?
We do have a park in Beaumont. It will happen at 6 or 8 locations at the same time. So it's all different areas, but Beaumont does have a park that
Okay,
we meet at.
thank you.
Well, I did, but I think I know my answer. I was going to ask about your EL population. I think it's like 1.5%. And then I'm also looking at your test scores for the state. Is it just because of the model of instruction on why the EL population seems not to enroll into your program? Or do you have a very structured redesignation process once they do start?
So we have 88 students out of the 77,000. So we enroll anyone who wishes to come. So it may be that it's not appealing to that demographic, possibly. But we have a structured program for the students that have those needs, which is, designated EL classes with our EL credentialed teachers. The Lexia it's a kind of like iReady, or a program where they go on the computer, they practice the specific English skills. It's supervised by their teacher. They have progress each week. So we have the structure in place to support those students. There just aren't a lot of them that are enrolling.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Item 12.3, receive a presentation and report from True North Research and discuss the results regarding the recently conducted bond feasibility survey.
Good evening, President Brown, Superintendent Kakish, and Board of Trustees. This evening is a follow-up presentation from the January 27th board meeting, where we tasked Dr. Timothy McLarnley to survey our population in terms of a future potential bond measures. You have with you in front of you a report that he's going to go over with us in detail. Oh, there you go. Here's the presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, Board. Tim McLarnley with True North Research. I was here a few months ago, give you a little bit of background on us, but just quickly, and for those in the audience, we're a firm that for 25 years has specialized in working with school districts and other types of public agencies in conducting surveys to help them develop a statistically reliable understanding of the communities and the customers that they serve. 1,500 studies to date. Probably 2/3 of the work we're doing these days are revenue measure feasibility studies, of which a bond measure feasibility study is a type, where the goal is to understand if it's feasible for an agency to put forward a bond, for example, and if it is feasible, to help them understand, based on the research, how they might go about structuring that measure in a way that it's consistent with the type of measure that their community is interested in supporting. Tonight's presentation covers the highlights of the survey results, and I welcome questions from the board along the way or at the end, whichever is your preference. So before we dive into the results, quick reminder of the purpose of the study as well as the methodology or how we went about conducting the study. As a bond feasibility study, we're really trying to address the 3 bullets you see here on the slide. The first is to answer that basic question of, is it feasible? And what I mean by that is, if you were to put a measure on the ballot, does it have a reasonable chance of success? Answer that question isn't always yes. Sometimes we do this work, and no matter how you look at the data, there's really no clear path to get you from where you are today to where you need to be viable on election day. And if that's the case, I'll be the first person to tell you that. When we do see feasibility, that second bullet kicks in gear, which is to understand, using the research, how might you go about structuring this measure in a way that it's consistent with the type of measure that your community is interested in supporting. There's a lot of components to a bond package. There's the project list, identifying how you intend to spend the funds. There's what's the total bond amount, the price tag, the tax rate, what sort of accountability provisions can be built into these measures. And so there's a lot of important sort of decisions that have to be made as you're moving forward and getting ready to place a bond on the ballot. The research can help guide that. And then finally, it's an opportunity for us to gather information that can help in terms of future communications related to this effort. In terms of the methodology, we use the same methodology here that we always use when we're looking at the feasibility of a bond. And the first thing we want to address is to think about what election your measure is going to be on if you were to move forward. Different elections have different turnouts, and as you expand and you shrink turnout, you will tend to get a different profile to the group of voters who are participating in that election. It's really important for your research to be reliable that you're choosing a group of what's called likely voters from the universe that you're thinking of. So in this case, if it's the November general election, we identify individuals who are what we call likely November voters based on when they registered to vote in the district, what elections they participated in since that point, as well as some other demographics. We then use a process called stratified and clustered random sampling to choose a sample of voters that matches the profile of that likely November universe on all the dimensions that we know tend to drive how voters behave on these types of measures. So the balance in our sample by age and gender and partisanship and household party type and where they live within the district, the balance in our sample matches the balance in the universe. And that is really one of the keys to making sure that this research is reliable. Once we do that, we reach out and solicit participation in the survey from those that we've sampled using 3 different methods: email, text, and telephone. Folks had the opportunity to take this either by telephone or online, whichever was their preference, as well as in English or Spanish. And we had contracted, I believe, for 400. We walked back in the door with 576. So we had a really good response to the survey solicitation. I always have to kind of make some guesses about what I think that productivity is going to be. I tend to be a little conservative. That way we're over-delivering and not under-delivering. But because we now have a somewhat higher sample size than we had originally planned, we have a somewhat lower margin of error due to sampling. In this case, it's plus or minus 4% at the 95% confidence level. So what that means is we can be 95% confident that the results I'll share with you tonight are within 4% of what we would have found had we spoken with every single likely November voter in your community. Okay. So on to the results. So we like to open up our bond feasibility studies with what we call the importance of issues question, where for each of the issues you see there on the left side of the slide, we just ask voters to tell us, how important is this to you? Is it extremely important, very important, somewhat important, or not at all important? It is a great warm-up question, kind of gets folks into the groove of taking the survey, thinking about their community and local issues. But it's also an opportunity for us to understand how education as a topic stacks up against some of these other issues that compete for tax dollars. And in particular, how does the topic of maintaining the quality of education in local public schools stack up against the issue of preventing local tax increases? Been doing this for a long time, using the same basic methodology, and it is surprisingly predictive. The higher up in this list that maintaining the quality of education in public schools stacks up relative to the issue of preventing local tax increases, the better positioned you are to move forward with some type of bond measure. So you see here at the top of the list, maintain the quality of education in local public schools was in fact the #1 issue at 86%, rate that is extremely or very important, followed by maintaining local streets and roads, reducing traffic congestion on down. When you go down about middle of the pack there, you see preventing local tax increases checking in about 75%. So there's about an 11-point gap between maintaining the quality of education in local public schools and preventing local tax increases. It's a little smaller than what we typically see in most communities. Usually that gap's more like about 22%, 23%. So what that tells us about your community is just it's a little more tax rate sensitive than the average community that is going out and looking at these bonds. One other thing I will point out is the very bottom of the list, you see repairing and upgrading aging school facilities at 64%. So much lower, obviously, than maintaining the quality of education in local public schools. I point it out not because it's unusual. We always find that that issue trails by some margin maintaining the quality of education in public schools. I point it out mainly because it's not because it's unusual, but it's an important lesson when you're thinking about as you move forward with a bond. Although bonds are about facilities, right? They're about what you're going to fix or improve or construct. At the end of the day, voters don't care so much about facilities as they care about what happens inside those facilities when it comes to schools and education. So it's just a reminder that as you're moving forward with the bond measure, we're always wanting to be connecting the dots between this issue of what it is you're building or fixing or repairing, but why it matters to your core mission of educating students, right? So connecting the dots between that lowest item, repairing and upgrading aging school facilities, but how it connects to the thing they care about the most, which is maintaining the quality of education in local public schools.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not quite sure how to ask this question. So you have, the first one is maintaining the quality of education, and then the bottom one is the repairing.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you marry those two together so that you get the, I mean, do people understand the difference between the quality and the facilities? Like, are they going to connect the dots that in order to maintain the quality education, we need the facilities as well? Is that an easy connection for them to make, or is that hard to get to?
That's where the messaging around your facilities master plan and the bond that's going to support that. You have to connect the dots for voters in your messaging and how you talk about it. So, for example, you'll see in a lot of times we could just talk about classrooms, or you can talk about science and technology, engineering, math, arts classrooms. You can talk about the programmatic uses of these facilities. It helps a lot, right? And so it isn't about walls and roofs and floors and only, or constructing new schools. It's really about trying to help them understand how by doing that you're also giving students educational opportunities you might not otherwise be able to do. So CTE Pathways is a good example of that, right? If you don't have certain facilities, you can't offer certain pathways. So it's just trying to help them understand that facilities are part of what shapes that educational environment.
So I guess, well, and I'm just going to say right now, I'm a little skeptical all the way through this process, just so you know where I'm coming from. Okay?
Sure.
So I think that, our school district, we're in a really great position where we have a lot of opportunities for kids. So we have a lot of that stuff already. So it's like we already have 12 pathways at the high school. You already have these things happening at the middle schools and all these great programs. So so you're already maintaining the quality of education. So if it's just facilities, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think maybe there's a couple of slides in here that'll help with this, and you'll see where we start to unpack it. And keep in mind, this is the first question, and we're just talking about repairing and upgrading aging school facilities. We don't get to unpack anything yet. You get a little deeper in here, and you start to talk a little more about, hey, if we do a bond, this is what it's going to go for. Right. And you can see how voters start to react to different potential uses, some of which are more priorities than others, right?
But I think that, looking at it before tonight, what we had to see, the numbers are pretty close for me, close for comfort. I mean, it's like, they're not like yes for sure and or no for sure. They're kind of like right in the middle.
Well, and you'll see as we get into this, and I don't want to, as we go through the slides, it'll be a little clear. There's two measures that we're going to be talking about, and it's kind of a tale of two measures, right? They get very different reactions from voters, and I'll explain why.
I don't mean to get ahead of you, but I'm just, I'm still trying to just
So
process
Susie,
it
I
all.
have a ton of questions on the same stuff when we get to page 9.
Okay. All right, so I jumped the gun. Sorry, but I just
All right, here we go, slide 5. One of the interesting things, we already talked a little bit about this, is sometimes when you're doing these measures, we're looking at one bond measure, right? And so everything's about one bond measure. Here, what we examined was a 2-bond scenario. One bond, measure A, is what's called a bond extension. And what it means is you have bonds that voters previously approved in the past. They're about to come off the books. And what it allows you to do is layer in a new bond behind that. As one bond comes off the books, the other one layers in. And it basically just continues the tax rate that they're already paying out into the future. So in this case, you've got this $20 per 100,000 of assessed valuation tax rate that's going to come off the books. And if you just continue that out into the future, it allows you to obtain about $86 million for your schools without actually increasing the tax rate or the property taxes that voters are currently paying. So those are called bond extensions. So Measure A is a bond extension. You can see that that's the 75-word ballot statement that we tested at the initial ballot test. And one thing I'll point out is that that first slide where the importance of issues, that was the first question we asked. This is the second. So we get right to it right after that little warm-up question, because the initial ballot test is a really good gauge of where your voters are at on the natural with respect to these proposals, because they haven't seen anything beyond the 75-word ballot statement you see here. So that is the language that we tested for the bond extension, and here are the results. So at that initial ballot test, we had 59% say that they would support this proposal, 30% opposed, and you got about 12% who are not sure or prefer not to answer the question. So in the state of California, for a Prop 39 bond to pass, you need 55%. So we're sitting about 4 points north of the 55% threshold right away. Now, as I mentioned, this concept of a bond extension, if you go back a slide here, you can see in the ballot statement, the way we try and capture that within the 75-word ballot statement is in the bottom. You can see it says, shall Beaumont Unified School District's measure be adopted authorizing $86 million in bonds at legal rates, and then parentheses, without increasing current tax rates. That's all we can sort of say within the 75 words to try and get at that 2-minute explanation I gave you a minute ago. And then it goes right into levying $20 per 100,000 assessed. We know that not everybody, some people just sort of gloss past that. They don't see it, it doesn't connect, right? So after we test it with the 75 words, we also go on to sort of give them a little background. We say, all right, voters approved a bond in 1998 to construct and repair local school facilities. The current tax rate for the bond is $20 per 100,000 of assessed valuation. Measure A would not increase the property tax your household currently pays. It would simply extend the current $20 tax rate previously approved by voters for an additional period of time to make priority repairs and improvements to classrooms and school facilities. So we have a moment to explain the bond concept to them there. Once you do that, the results jump. You go to 64% support, which is, at this point, you're 9 points north of the 55% threshold that's required for passage.
Yes, so where is that clarifying statement? Because on the ballot measure, you said that's all you can say is that very vague. So where does that clarifying come in?
You have to say that in your messaging around the measure. You can put that in the arguments in favor. So there's places you can put it. The problem with the 75-word ballot statement is you get 75 words, right? You don't get 76. You got to cram it all into 75, and there's a lot here that is legally required, and we just do not have the room to really explain the bond concept, the extension concept here. The best we can do is carve out those 5 words without increasing current tax rates. And some people get it there, some people don't get it there, but then they get it the moment you sort of explain it.
Yeah, because I think some people would see, we're not increasing your taxes, but you're going to be paying this much, and that's what they would see.
Yeah.
Right? And that doesn't, those don't match that.
Look, there's a lot in, there's certain measures, types of tax measures that are, I think, very clear to voters in terms of, when you say it's a $50 parcel tax, well, you know what that is. It's $50 per parcel per year. There's no mystery there. One of the challenges, and you'll see this in a couple slides ahead, with bonds is the tax the tax rate for a bond isn't as intuitive, right? It's $20 per 100,000 of assessed valuation. Well, to translate that into a meaningful number, you need to know what assessed valuation is. You need to have some estimate of the AV for your property, and you got to be able to do math pretty quickly to turn that rate into some meaningful number, and understandably, not everybody's good at that. And so this was a rule change, going back to the language, this is a rule change that happened in 2018, and we saw that the moment the rule change happened, basically on average, support for bonds around the state went down 7 points. And when you talk to people about it, there's just a lot of confusion, right? People don't, there's a lot of numbers that are in there. Unfortunately, that is the law, right? We have to put every one of those elements in there, even though it is a bit confusing for some voters. Okay, so back to here. So with the extension, what we see is a 5-point boost, and we're now 9 points north of the 55% threshold that's required for passage. So that was the Measure A bond extension. The second bond we introduced was Measure B. Measure B is a new bond, so there's no extension part of this. It would be an increase in the tax rate of $38 per 100,000 assessed valuation, would raise about $179 million to do the things that you see there in the bullet. And so that's the language we tested for Measure B, and here are the results. So for Measure B, we found A little less than half, 49% at the initial ballot test were willing to support Measure B, 39% were opposed, and you had about 12% who were unsure or prefer not to answer. So Measure B is sitting, whereas the other measure started out above 55 and then climbed, Measure B started about 6 points below the 55% threshold. And that's a reflection, I think, of two things. Number one, it's the second of two bonds. So anytime you take a bond and you put a second one on, there's a little more scrutiny that happens. We see that on the ballot all the time. And then also, not only is it the second bond we introduce, it's also a new bond, meaning it's going to have an increase in taxes, whereas Measure A would not. And point being is, I don't think it's as much a reflection of what Measure A is going to fund. That is, is the position of it and the fact that it's a tax increase.
Because it looks like going back to what we were saying before, though, that they see the $20 on the Measure A. They're like, oh, you're charging me $20, and now you're going to charge me even more. So
Yeah.
they're going to put it together that way possibly and not realize that they're already paying that $20. Because the way that's worded, it's a little confusing.
Well, I can tell you, and we've done all sorts of scenarios with double bonds. So we've done 2 bond extensions, right? We've had districts where they had like $60 worth of, they were, elementary school districts. The Prop 39 max for an elementary school district is $30, and they had a prior $60 bond coming off the books. Well, we could do side-by-side Measure A, Measure B bond extensions, so you could approve both of them, and it would never actually impact the property tax rate above what it currently was. And then we've run scenarios which are, one's an extension, one's a new bond, and then I've run double new bonds in some cases. I can just tell you that the double bond scenario tends to be a little tricky, right? It's a little harder. Whatever comes second is going to be looked at with a little more scrutiny, right? And so part of the drop here is the position, right? If we had flip-flopped these, this Measure B would probably have been a little higher than it is that you see here. And then also, obviously, part of it is the fact that unlike Measure A, Measure B is a tax increase, right? Measure A just continues an existing tax. Okay. So now for Measure B, because it is a new tax, we want to be very clear about that. And we said, all right, for Measure B, the amount your household would pay based on this, in this first case, what we do is we start at the top and we say, all right, if you knew that the property taxes on your home would increase by $38 per 100,000 assessed, which is the tax rate for Measure B, would you vote yes or no? And then if they're anything but a definitely yes at the 38, we stepped it down to 28 just to see how tax rate sensitive voters were with respect to Measure B. One of the things you see here is, as we saw as a bond package, right, when we tested the ballot language, we had 49% support for Measure B. The moment you kind of put the blinders on somebody and focus their attention on the tax rate, it has a bit of a wet blanket effect on support for your bond. That is also very common, I will let you know. And so instead of 49%, when you zero in on that $38 per 100,000 assessed valuation tax rate, support checked in at 38%. When we lowered that to $28 per 100,000 assessed, we get a little bit of a tick up at 40%. But at either of those tax rates for Measure B, we're well below the 55% that's required for passage. Now, we also know, though, that this question tends to be a bit of a conservative read on voter support for a bond measure for a couple reasons. Number one, we're putting the blinders on a respondent, right? And when you think about what a bond package is, it's a 75-word ballot statement. A lot of the things in that are about what it is you're going to fund. The price tag is one piece of that. And so anytime you pluck the price tag out, set it aside, and kind of put the blinders on someone and focus on it, it always drops the rate a bit, artificially compared to when they're voting on the package. The other reason we know that it's a conservative read is because when you say that the property taxes on your home are going to increase by $38 per 100,000 of assessed, like I said earlier, not everybody knows what you're talking about, right? They know you're talking price tag, but they don't know what $38 per 100,000 of assessed valuation increase translates to in a meaningful number, and so they hedge. They'll say no or not sure instead of yes. And so that's why we also come about it a little differently on the next page. We said, all right, let me put it another way. If you knew that that Measure B would cost the typical homeowner about $149 per year, would you vote yes or no? The $149 per year is the $38 per 100,000 of assessed valuation tax rate, multiplied times the median assessed value for a residential property in our district. So it's what that middle property owner would pay. All we're doing here is trying to take the mystery out of that tax rate, turn it into a meaningful number everyone can understand. And when we do that, you do get a boost in support. Okay, some of those people who are hedging jump over and say, okay, if I know it's going to be $149 per year, I'm okay with that. 47% are opposed, and about 9% unsure at that point. So after we go through the tax threshold section, we get to what we call the projects and improvements section of the poll. What we're trying to do here is really two things. One is we are now starting to educate this respondent more about what this measure will accomplish. When we had those ballot tests, we only had 75 words, and you can only, maybe half of those words were devoted to talking about projects and improvements. Here we get to unpack your bonds into all these potential uses of funds, and in that way, voters are getting a better idea about what these proposals are about. The other reason we do it is because we want to know of all the ways you're thinking about spending the money, how do voters feel about each of these ways, and which of these might be their priorities. So the thing that jumps off the page to me, and I get to do this a lot for different school districts, is everything we're testing here is popular, right? Even the lowest rated item there had better than almost 3/4 of respondents say that they would favor spending some of the bond proceeds on that item. When you go to the top, though, there's kind of 4 that stand out at the top there, not only because they're at the top of the list, but the intensity of the favorability. The dark green bar is a little longer. And what you see there is a pretty typical combination of things that we normally see. Number one, basic repairs to your facilities, roofs, plumbing, electrical, HVAC. As your schools age, you need to be taking care of these things. Voters understand that, right? Sometimes I encounter clients who they're like, they think that in order to pass a bond, you've got to give voters something shiny and new, right? You've got to make it sexy in some ways. And what I have found is sexy does not sell bonds, right? What voters care about is taking care of the facilities they already have first and foremost. And you see that at the top of the list here, right? So the roofs, plumbing, electrical, that sort of stuff. Then it was safety and security, number 2. Number 3, again, back to your older facilities, right? We want to make sure that they are upgraded so they meet current health codes, building safety codes. If you have ADA issues, they want those addressed. And then the 4th one there is CTE, right? And so those things are often at the very top of the list when we're working with districts, so it's not unusual to see them there here. But again, everything on the list that we tested here was popular. So if you as a board were to choose to place a measure on the November ballot, there's going to be an election cycle. And during that election cycle, there will be a lot of discussion and debate in the community about your proposal, right? You'll have some folks who will go out and talk to their friends and neighbors, advocate on behalf of this measure, tell them why this is needed and why they should vote yes. You might also get opponents who step up and say, this is a terrible idea, shouldn't be doing it, and here's why. For this survey to be a reliable gauge of the feasibility of a bond measure, we need to simulate that discussion and debate in the space of the survey so that we know not only where your voters on the natural, which was those initial ballot tests, but what happens after they've heard arguments pro and arguments con. So we start out here with the positive arguments, test a series of these. You can see at the top of the list, the nature of the question is supporters of the measure say blank, so we let them know it's a supporter saying this. We insert an argument and then we say, do you think this is a very convincing, somewhat convincing, or not at all convincing reason to support the measure? You can see here this is sort of the top tier. I just broke it into 2 tiers to make it easier to read. But the top 2 up there were about crowding schools, right? So the top one was your schools are overcrowded already. Experts predict the area is going to continue to be one of the fastest growing areas in California for the next decade. We need to build new schools and add classrooms, labs, and facilities to existing schools to keep up with growth and relieve overcrowding. So that was the number 1. The second one there was another one about crowding specific to your high school. And so, and we tested some other positives that didn't resonate as well. And then we also tested negatives, right? And the idea behind the negatives is I want to put my opponent hat on and I want to pepper respondents with a series of negative arguments, the kind of negative arguments you might encounter during an election cycle, because I want to know, should you get opposition? Should they be effective at getting their message out? How might that impact voters' opinions about your measure? One thing I'll point out, we test fewer negatives than we do positives. That is by design. And the reason for that is most of the time when you get into a bond election cycle, the advocates of a measure, they're much larger in number. they're organized, they raise money, they have a louder voice typically than the opponents. To the extent you get opposition, it tends to be a smaller number of individuals. They don't raise money, they don't have as loud a voice typically as the proponents, and so that's why we simulate that disparity by testing fewer negatives. That said, the negatives we test are hard-hitting negative arguments, right? We're trying to pepper respondents with, with arguments to see how resilient is the yes vote and how much support can we carve off with the negatives. And you can see here that the negatives get some traction. This is going to be the election about cost of living and affordability, right? In case you haven't figured that out yet, that's going to be the theme all the way to November. And so we leaned right into that with these negatives, right? And you can see, for example, item B, local residents and businesses have been hit hard by inflation, high interest rates, rising costs of living. Many are struggling to stay afloat. Now is not the time to be raising taxes, right? So we didn't pull our punches on the negatives. The question, though, is what happens afterwards, and that is here. So for Measure A, the negatives cool us down a bit, but not a lot, right? We went from 64% to land at 62%. So even after the negatives, we're about 7 points north of the 55% threshold that's required for passage. I can say offhand that I've had the chance to do polling for the district in the past. There hasn't been a case in the polls where bonds have hit anywhere near 62% at a final ballot test, right? It's always been significantly lower. That's the game changer that a bond extension offers you, right? Because you can talk about it as extending rather than increasing the tax rate. They just tend to be much more appealing measures to voters than a new bond, and that's why we're hitting numbers here that you've never had in your past polling.
Dr. McClarney, right here in front of you.
Where'd that go? Sorry, it came from over there. I was like, what? That's a neat trick.
So, looking at this slide, okay, so at the very beginning, when you were talking about the numbers, you said that your numbers had a 4% margin of error. Okay, so 62% is 58%, we win by 3. That's not super convincing to me.
So the way this works now is what the plus or minus 4% means. We can be 95% confident that if we went out and polled every single one of your likely November voters in the district, that the result we'd get from that, right, would be within 4% of the 62. So if it could be as low as 58, it could be as high as 66, right? But it's
so when I pull them into the ballot box, that's exactly what I'm doing, is I'm pulling 100% of them.
What's that?
When I pull them, literally drag them into the ballot box, that's when I'm polling,
right,
for your phrase, polling 100% of my voters. So
right, and so what I'm saying is, in our sample, we have a sample of 570 something, right? So you obviously have a lot more voters, right? And so all this is saying is that if we've got 62% in our poll, right, in this snapshot in time, we can be 95% confident that had we gone out and surveyed every single voter, right, that we would be between 58 and 66, right? So 62 is the midpoint.
Right.
So if you're a guy who's sort of, I want to err on the downside, right? I want to err on the side of caution. You could say, let's take 4% away from that, right? Let's take the 4% off. You're at 58%. You're 3 points higher than 55, right?
Yeah.
But at the other way I would say this, and look, and from my perspective, I have no interest in whether you go or do not go, right? My job is to give you good information. As a district, here again, you've never been in a position where you have a final ballot test that is north of 55, right? Much less north of 55 by this much. These are the best poll results that you've had, and it has everything to do with this being a bond extension. Bond extensions are sort of limited time offers, and what I mean by that is, as you're approaching that bond, as the other one's going to come off the books, you have this opportunity to do a bond extension. If you go past that point, right, where now the bond's off the books, you no longer have a bond extension opportunity. It's a new bond. So Most districts, when they get to this position, they make when they get a bond extension, they're interested in a bond, they will pull the trigger and put it on it. I will tell you this, I've only seen one lose in my entire career, and I've been at this for 25 years. And it lost because the board put it on the ballot, and then something happened in the board, and they got angry with each other, and then two of them started to campaign against their own bond after putting it on the ballot. That is the only reason it lost. That's the only one I've ever seen lose. And so, and I don't want to say that as you can just throw it up there and walk away and it's going to win, but I just want to reassure you a little bit that when we have numbers at the low 60s, does it mean it's a slam dunk? No, it doesn't mean it's a slam dunk, but these are the kind of numbers you can win with.
So when was this survey done?
Sure.
When did you finish it?
Let me get the date on that. It was done, we were in the field, which is what matters. We were in the field March 10th to March 16th.
Was that before the war started or after?
I think the war was started. I don't know that, diesel wasn't $8 then, it is today, right? But it's well, you could start to see the ramp up, right?
Yeah.
The war is over 30 days now.
So my concern is world events and in the nation, things are not going well. And have you ever done a bond in this kind of environment? Because there's a lot going on. There's all the fraud that's going on across the nation, and you got the war, and you got all these things.
I hear you.
So that's why I'm like, seems like a very rare time. I mean, this doesn't happen every year.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and the short answer is I've being at this for 25 years, I've done this in every kind of scenario. The Great Recession, right? Remember, which was in a lot of ways, we're feeling the gas prices right now. The Great Recession was people losing homes, right? It was a much bigger deal, and if I had a dime for every time somebody would say this is not, you can't win in this environment, and then we'd go out and win. What you figured out is no, communities care about their schools and they're willing to invest in them if you have a good solid plan and put in front of them and you're transparent. The pandemic, right? The March election, when the pandemic hit 3 weeks before election, that was a terrible election, right? But by November, the passage rates on bonds were up in the 80% range, right? So we're still in the midst of the pandemic. It's just the panic of the immediate, oh my God, we're all gonna die thing, right, went away. And not that people weren't concerned about it, but they just weren't as fearful, 6 months after the pandemic started as they were in the first 3-4 weeks. So
even 9/11, I think, did not affect the bond as bad. The November after 9/11, and then the Iraq War in 1991, Kuwait and Iraq.
Yeah, you go through these cycles, and I will tell you this, one of the arguments is now's not a good time, right? There's always the now's not a good time argument. It's always there. You will hear it every election. The reasons just vary, right? And so, during the pandemic, it was about the pandemic. During the recession, it was about the recession. Now it's going to be about gas prices and things. The question is, where are we going to be in November? So, right? Do we think that the shock that's happening now is going to be in place in November? Well, then that's something you really need to think about, right? What I would advise, and I'm jumping ahead here to a little later slide, is you don't have to make any decisions about this tonight, right? And in fact, I would advise you not to, right? But you should sort of leave the door open so that you can make a decision closer to the filing deadline, which is early August. We'll now have, early August, several months away, we'll have a sense of whether, the war in Iran is over, what's going on with fuel prices, what's going on with the economy, are things leveling out a little bit? And then you'll just be closer to that point that you'd be thinking about putting a measure on the ballot. That would be what I would recommend. So no decision tonight, but just keep an eye on things.
Just information. I have another question about Measure A. So you mentioned that with the new rules about bond language on the ballot, you're seeing about I think you said 7% decrease in bond passage.
Compared to what it used to be.
Compared to what it used to be. And you also mentioned that, brought forth, I think, what everybody knows with the tax sensitivity in the community of Beaumont. and that there was that 11% gap when it's usually about 22%.
Yeah.
So how does that 7% play in? Does it widen that gap, or does it change these percentage rates? Is that 7% factored into this at all?
It's already there.
It's already
Yeah,
there.
so the difference
Okay.
is, and I'll just scan back here real quick. So here's Measure B, and I'll just use this example. The way it's worded now, you have all that stuff at the bottom, right? The levying $38 per 100,000 assessed valuation, the annual levy of $12 million while bonds are outstanding, all these additional pieces of information. That was information that was added to the 75-word ballot statement in 2018. AB 195 was the legislation that did that. What we found was, because before that, the way bonds read was it would be like, shall Beaumont Unified School District's Measure be adopted, authorizing $179 million at legal rates with independent audits, oversight, and all money local. So you didn't say those three things. You didn't say the duration, you didn't say the tax rate, you didn't say the annual levy. The moment they added that to it, support for bonds dropped about 7 points on average. So that 7-point drop, that's already baked into your results. The other way to look at it is if we could use bond language that was like it was prior to November 18, instead of 49% here, you'd have, 56%, right? So it's already sort of a downward pressure that's effective on all bonds in California.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so Measure A ends at 62%. Measure B ends at 49%, right? So we're still below. We're kind of ending where we start with Measure B. It doesn't move. So I have two wrap-up slides, and again, I'm happy to continue answering questions. But, when you think about all these results and you sum it up, what does it mean? Well, I'm going to circle back first to that overarching question I mentioned at the outset about feasibility. If you as a board were to choose to place a measure on the November ballot, does it have a reasonable chance of success? The answer is yes for a bond extension, no for a new bond, right? So if you look at Measure A, I think Measure A is feasible. I think you've got a path to a successful measure if you choose to place a measure on a ballot. Measure B, I don't really see a clear path. I don't see how you could take Measure B to success in November. I think there's just too steep of a hill to climb with that one. Why the feasibility for Measure A? It's everything you see under the positive signs there on the slide, right? We saw that, for starters, that voters do rank maintain the quality of education in local public schools as the most important issue facing their community. The natural support with just the 75-word ballot statement for Measure A was 59%. That's 4 points above the 55% threshold that's required. Once we explained the bond extension concept, it jumped to 64%. All of the projects that you're thinking about funding with these measures are popular. You've got positive arguments that resonate. And importantly, at each point in the poll where we circled back to voters with the Measure A ballot language and said, now that you've heard a bit more, where do you stand? At every one of those points, support was north of the 55% threshold, and that's even after testing opposition arguments. So when we see that pattern, we see those pieces in place, that's the kind of pattern we want to see for a measure to have a reasonable chance of success on Election Day. That said, there are some challenges that come out of the poll, or if you sort of step back from the poll and just think about external things that are going to be going on probably in November that are there as well. And so, one of the challenges is the clarity around the bond tax extension concept. We saw that some folks get that out of the 75-word statement. Some folks, you got to explain the bond concept for them to get it, right? And so there's about a 5-point delta there. So we're not capturing the 5% just based on the 75 words. That means you're going to have to educate on that point, right? That's going to be important. We do see the negative arguments get some traction, but not a lot. It only cooled us down about 2 points from where we were. The bigger question, and you had already raised it, is kind of, well, what about all these other things, right? What about the things that are outside the poll? In some ways, I always like to, in some ways we're polling at probably one of the most difficult points in the last year, right? When you think about the environment we're in right now, it's probably one of the more challenging, and so that's encouraging. The question is really kind of what happens over the next 6 months, right? What other shoes might fall during the next 6 months? You've got all these sort of unknowns in that respect. This is why I was saying I would, hold judgment in terms of don't make a decision tonight either way, but continue to, leave the door open for a November measure. Start to communicate, start to engage with the community. You'll hear, this is just really the first part of the conversation. It shouldn't be the last. You should continue to widen that conversation. And then you'll be able to make that decision when you get closer towards the August timeframe and have a better idea kind of what the conditions are at that point.
Dr. McLarnley, I have a question. Serge, right here.
Okay.
I don't think this was.
Throw me for a loop.
This is an important point, but I don't think it was tested. But just to keep us more to think as before the board makes a decision early June to July, that with the Measure A extension, it's a one-time thing, one-time deal. After 2027, we lose that. So that's $86 million. But my point here is that those $86 million will qualify us for another $86 million or more at the state. So it's not just $86 million, it's over $172 million of a measure that potentially could be secured for our district. If we walk away from it, then we're leaving money on the table.
Yeah, I mean, that is a really important point. And because these measures, again, it's just a different conversation with voters when you can talk about a bond as being, look, we get the 86 million, we get our state match, right? We get some of our tax dollars back from the state, and it's not going to increase the property taxes that your household's paying above where they are today. You're just extending that in the future. It is a totally different conversation than talking about a brand new bond, right? And to your point, if you were to punt it now, it sounds like it falls off the books in 27. You will not have that opportunity in 28, right? So it'll be only new bond at that point. So a couple things just to keep in mind, and this is my last slide. It's important to remember that a poll like this is a snapshot in time. It is not a crystal ball, right? It is not looking forward to Election Day, saying you're going to get a certain percentage on Election Day. It tells us where your voters are today, right? Gives us a good idea how they react to the types of information that they'll probably encounter during the election cycle. But ultimately, what happens on Election Day isn't what your poll says today. It's everything that happens from this point forward, right? And I say that because you've got promising poll results for a bond extension, right? You really do. And nevertheless, it's going to be real important that you make smart decisions about the type of measure you put in front of your voters, make sure that it reflects their priorities. And you got to put the work in terms of communication, right? And that's really two parts to that. There's what the district can do as a public agency, non-advocacy communications, just raising awareness, having a conversation with the community, helping them understand what your facility needs are and how they connect to those educational opportunities. And then there would need to be an independent campaign, private dollars, separate from the district, right? Volunteer time, that would go out and advocate on behalf of this measure during the election cycle, right? So that's separate from the district. But that is the end of my presentations. If there are any additional questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I have another question, maybe two.
Okay.
So on your slide where you talked about the negative arguments, you were saying that usually the positive support outweighs the negative, so the people that are in support are more vocal about it and more supportive, or at least that's what I understood.
Yeah, so I was just explaining why we test more positive arguments than we do negatives, is because that is an accurate simulation of what we tend to see happening in election cycles, meaning the group that decides to advocate on behalf of bonds, they tend to be organized, boots on the ground, right? They raise money, they do mailers, they do things like that. The independent campaign does that. Typically, opposition campaigns don't do that. They're smaller, they don't raise funds, right? They just don't have as loud of a voice, and that's why we test fewer negatives than we do positives. That said, as I mentioned, the negatives we're testing are hard-hitting negative arguments, right? We're trying to simulate, we're putting on our opponent hat and using the opponent's voice when we're testing them.
Well, but that is, when I'm on social media, which is our world now, it is the reality of the community. I'm thinking the comments that I'm seeing and the posts that I'm seeing, like after we have a town hall meeting, somebody will make a comment and you'll see one supportive comment out of all of the many that are posted there. And so I'm wondering, have you seen an exception to that? Like, could our community be less in favor, or the opponents more vocal?
I
'Cause
hear what
think
you're
that
saying.
played a factor in the past. We've had some opponents that have really been very convincing, and what I'm feeling and what I'm seeing is those negative comments on social media, that people are just they're not for it. And so, I'm concerned about sitting up here as being a representative of the community and saying, yeah, we should do this, when what we're hearing is the community doesn't want it.
And then part of the reason why, though, is this is why you do a survey like this, because social media is not a statistically representative sample of your community, right? And particularly get on certain sites, and it tends to be a lot of negativity. And then what happens is, we're all getting our news different places now, and that's part of the reason why we argue so much, right? Is because we all have a different version of reality compared to all sort of getting the same version of reality. And you see the same thing on social media, right? They're echo chambers. So if you get in one where they're not happy about the bond, that tends to be the people who stay there, and the supporters will tend to go, I'm going to go to a different site, right? And so that's why you do these surveys, right? Is to figure out, what do your likely November voters think, and we have a statistically representative sample. That's what this data will say. So I don't mean to underplay, your experience, and I know that happens in other districts too. I mean, every bond election that we're involved in, you're going to have naysayers in the community, and that's their right to be a naysayer.
Yeah, exactly. And our job is to hear that, as elected officials. I don't know how relevant or how accurate that is, but I'm not seeing the positive, much of it,
Right. Right. And again, that's why you do the surveys, right? Because if you made policy based on what you see in social media, right?
Yeah, I hear you, and I would never make decisions solely based on social media.
Yeah.
But
you don't want to discount it, but you want to keep it in perspective, is what I would say.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Melissa, here's one of my concerns that I spin this around in my head every time we talk about bonds, and I don't know if I've said it out loud yet, but so we sit up here and we do our civic duty, right? And we weigh the pros and cons, and we listen to Tim, and we listen to Sergio, and we bring as much information in as we possibly can. And in some ways, maybe we have too much information compared to the other, what are there, about 50,000 people? The other 49,996 voters in Beaumont. But I wonder, one of the things that we have the ability to do, and it weighs heavily on me, and I'm sure it weighs on all of us, is we have the ability to control whether or not those people really even get a voice, right? So that is one of the things. You're looking confused, but I'll explain, Susie. I promise. But so if we 5 say we're not going out for a bond, then those 50,000 people don't get to say whether or not they wanted to buy a bond or not, right? Now, we have to be fiscally conservative, because when we go out for a bond, it actually costs our district something to do that. So we don't want to throw money down the toilet, and we certainly don't want to go for a bond that Tim says this is a loser, this is never going to win. So we need to take the advice of the consultants that we hired and trust the data. But I'm really torn about, do I want to, and I know that we all represent the entire district, but we also each represent our 10,000-ish people who are in our trustee areas. And do I feel like my voice is worth 10,000 voices? Did I clarify, Susie? Because you look confused.
I like your point where you said if it's not on the ballot, then people don't get that choice.
Right. Only we get to pick.
That's a good point.
If we don't put it on there, then only we picked. It was really just our voice that was heard. And we are elected to represent. We have a representative government. I understand that. We are elected to represent the constituents of the entire district. But that weighs on me a lot. I really sort of like that idea that, am I really worth 10,000 votes? Like, because I'm taking away 9,999 votes just of my constituents, right? And I'm rounding, so please.
No,
bear with me.
I think that's valid, and one of the things that I really like that you said was it weighs on you.
Oh, it
And
weighs on me considerably.
I'm feeling the weight as well, because it matters to me what the community wants.
Yes, absolutely.
And it also matters to me greatly what the school district needs, and I see both, and it's just like, this is not an easy thing. And so I guess that's what I want to say, is that this is heavy.
Right.
And it matters a lot, and I see all of it. And, you know, we're up here, and we've been elected to be up here, and our hearts are such that we want to make the best decisions. And, you know, perceptions aren't always reality, which is a lot of where social media comes in.
Yes.
But that's the reality, you know, that is the reality, is that that's the genuine word from the dais, I guess.
So the other things that kind of feel like the elephant in the room, and so I'm going to say them, is, you know, one of the things that seemed to me to be apparent, and it is not apparent in your data, Tim, so I'm just going to divorce myself from your data for just a second.
Sure.
But one of the things that felt apparent in our previous bond attempt was it felt like the dollar amount was less significant than the fact that there was a dollar amount, okay? And I get what you're saying about the continuing the $20 bond. It's more favorable, but there are a significant number of people in Beaumont, I think, who think similarly to me, that, well, just because I paid that car off doesn't mean I want to start making payments. You know what I mean? And the other thing is, it's not the same. So here's the interesting thing. You know, you're saying, we're going to go out for a bond, it's going to be, was it $20?
$20.
Huh? $20 per 100,000. Okay, well, my house is worth a whole lot more. That my assessed value has increased over the past, what year was this?
1998.
1998. So even at the state maximum, and I understand we're protected from significant property tax increases, but even at the state maximum, my assessed value has gone up significantly, even at the, I think it's 1.5% per year that it can increase. So I'm still talking about more money than I was talking about in 1998. I understand that we've paid the assessed value, so it's not necessarily more money than it was last year, but that $20 per assessed value is a lot more $20 than it was when it was voted on. Not necessarily when it was paid last, but when it was voted on.
Well, the rate's the same, right? The rate's the same. The rate doesn't change.
Right, I got that.
And it's applied to your assessed value. Your assessed value, right, the state can, because of Prop 13, can only raise that, I think it's 2% a year. This is why my dad, right, who's owned his house for 40 years, loves to rub it in my face, that he pays something like $1,400 a year in property taxes,
exactly.
right? And, you know, but if his neighbor were to buy his house, suddenly it would be 10 times that, right? So that growth is going to happen anyways, right? It's that 2%, they're going to get you for that every time.
Oh, I know.
The tax rate's the same, right?
Yes.
You know, I think you brought something up, and I would just phrase it a little differently. It's the same concept, but I see this, you know, the hand wringing and the angst that's happening up here about this. I see it regularly in what I do, and it's important to keep in mind that, you know, you are not voting to impose a bond, right? If you choose to place a bond on the ballot, all you're doing is giving the community the choice about whether they want to support it or not. That's all you're doing. As a board, you cannot impose taxes. All you can do is give them the option to say yes or no. To your point, if you don't put it on the ballot, you're sort of you're imputing your opinion that no, we don't need this, and you're sort of denying the community the chance to say yes or no, right? That sometimes helps boards because they feel like this is a difficult time, as if voting to put it on the ballot is voting to impose the tax. That's not what you're doing, right?
Right. We're voting to give them an opinion, is really what we're doing.
Yeah, they're giving them a choice.
But their opinion's not free, and that's one of the things that I want to make sure that we all understand. I mean, obviously, we all understand, but I want to make sure it's stated. Giving them their opinion is not free, right? The district has to incur costs, win, lose, or draw, right? The costs don't change if we win.
Right.
So, it is something, it's a, you know, for all of us, I believe it's something that weighs on us. It's something that is not an easy sort of decision.
So with you said that the measure A percentages, it's a good percentage. What would be like the bottom line where you would say, hey, I don't recommend this, just out of curiosity?
Honestly, in your community, right, which is a tax-sensitive community, and you've struggled in the past to do bonds, and we know that this is an opportunity that if you don't do it in 26, won't be there in 28 or beyond, right? If I saw a final ballot test of 55%, now we're set 62. If I saw a final ballot test at 55 and the other two were above it, and knowing it's an extension, I would say, as long as you're comfortable putting on the ballot, I would say go, right? Because it's a chance that you're not going to have again after 26, right? The fact that you're 7 points above that, and again, your polling's never been close to that in the past, it sort of should give you an idea of that, hey, this is a measure that your community is comfortable with, right? And so now, if it were a new bond now and you had the same opportunity to go in 28 and we thought maybe 28 was going to be a better election environment, which I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case. You know, I've had counseled some districts like, wait, don't go now, do some things between now and 28, and different turnout then might be better. I've certainly counseled some districts that way in the past on different election cycles. I don't see that being the case here, right?
That gives a little perspective, so I appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate great conversation. I don't often get this much banter, right? And it's good. You know, sometimes it comes from up there.
Yeah. We do banter.
Yeah, it's great. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, Tim.
so much. Mr. Sanchez, about the choir.
I'll make sure you.
I've made a mess.
Needs paper towels. Something.
Thank you, Maze. Sorry.
That's what the secretaries do.
All right.
Can somebody grab some paper towels?
No, it's fine, I'll do it.
You sure? You're gonna take a whole box of tissue doing that?
All right.
Pass it down. The big box. Better tissues.
Yes. So, for those of you who can't see, I just knocked over my tea. I'm sorry, Maze. So item 12.4, approve the appointment of Erica Horton as the member-at-large representative for the second term on the Measure Z Citizens Oversight Committee. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote.
So lovely.
Was that Susie and David?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. All right, and the motion carries. Item 12.5, adopt resolution 2025-26-32, establishing the maximum and actual special tax rates and authorizing the levy of special taxes for the 26-27 fiscal year for community facilities districts numbers 2018-1, 2020-1, 2022-1, and 2025-1, and the improvement areas contained therein. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. And the motion carries. Excuse me. Item 12.6. Conduct a public hearing regarding the conveyance of easement to Southern California Edison for the purpose of constructing electrical vehicle charging infrastructure on district property. I will open the public hearing at 8 p.m.
We're still here at 8 o'clock? What's going on? Sorry.
It's Tim's fault.
Sorry. No. 8 o'clock.
President Brown and Board of Trustees, there's no presentation on this item. This is just a follow-up from the last board meeting in March when the board adopted a resolution of intention to dedicate an easement to Southern California Edison for infrastructure access and the installation of electrical vehicle stations at our transportation yard.
Thank you, Mr. San Martin. So beginning discussion at 8:01. Any discussion from the board? It's a really long 20 seconds. Convening the meeting at 8:01.
8 what?
8:01.
Well, you started at 8, so that's good. That's a whole minute.
Okay. And that is an informational item. Item 12.7, adopt resolution 2025-26-35, resolution of the Board of Trustees authorizing the conveyance of the easement to Southern California Edison for the purpose of constructing an electrical vehicle charging station infrastructure on district property. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. And the motion carries. Item 12.8, conduct a first reading of Beaumont Unified School District's board policy and administrative regulation regarding business and non-instructional operations in the 3000s as listed in the summary, and adopt if a second reading is not necessary. Do we want to do the discussion or the motion first?
I move for approval.
Okay.
I'll second.
Was that Susie? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then discussion?
Yep. And I apologize, I don't know if this was covered at the last meeting. Okay. So I understand, being a school administrator, that there are valid reasons for a registered sex offender to be on campus. If they have a student there, they're legally allowed to be on campus. But what I do not understand and could use some help understanding is what other limiting circumstances would there be in which a registered sex offender would be permitted on campus outside of their capacity as a parent or guardian?
It's all dead.
So, and that's a great question. And it's not necessarily stating that there ever would be a situation where we would allow a sex offender who's not a parent onto our campus. But in the rare off chance that we were to do something like that, we would want to have it legally defensible. We want to have provisions and rules in place on how we would provide that notification to parents. And that clarification that we would provide that notification to parents, right? The future is unforeseeable. We know that sometimes registered sex offenders become registered sex offenders for things that may not be so serious. Urinating in public, it's disgusting, right? But sometimes the need overcomes, and I'm not saying that we would allow someone who urinated in public to come onto a school property, but we do want to have provisions in place in the rare event that that would happen.
I don't think we ever know what the offense is unless it's disclosed to us by the offender, which is concerning.
Megan's Law does identify, if it was,
yeah,
and I do realize a minor or things like that.
Yeah, and I have a ton of compassion for parents, for people in those circumstances, and I show that compassion when I'm on my school site. But I just I don't know what those circumstances would be, or even if it was a parent that was a sex offender that didn't have a reason to be on campus outside of their capacity as a parent or guardian. So, I mean, can we just say we can't do that, or does the law say that we have to allow that?
The law isn't clear on whether or not you can just prohibit anyone, but you need to remember that we are a public agency. We do serve the public. And this is really, it's not opening the door, it's putting guardrails in place in the event that we were to have a sex offender come on campus for whatever reason.
Well, I guess I would
making sure that we are protecting the district from failure to notify parents.
Yeah, I'd just like to know, I need some type of indication as to why we would do that. That's what I need.
Well, the law does already allow limited circumstances.
But
So
can you give us an example of that? Because that's where I'm struggling. Like, what could it possibly be?
Because our public is minors.
I mean, yeah, we're a public
we've
agency,
got
we're
urination in public, right? Possibly someone who
No.
was
Why would we
19.
allow them on campus?
Oh,
Why?
What would be
why
the
would we
limited
allow them onto
circumstances?
campus?
Yeah, and I'm not trying to give you a hard time, it's just, this is really important. It is.
This would have to be a parent, right?
Oh, Bobby, yes.
I'm thinking of guidance that we've provided in the past. So for example, if you have a parent, right, who is a registered sex offender and they are going on campus because their student is, they're going to have a parent-student-teacher conference, right?
It says that, it says that, that's okay.
Yes. So what if they're not a parent?
We want to know what
Outside of that.
outside of your jurisdiction as a parent, why would you possibly need to be on campus?
Yeah, because the communication that we got said, there could be limiting circumstances in which a registered sex offender would be permitted on campus outside of their capacity as a parent or guardian, and that's the circumstances where the notice would be given.
Right.
So the only thing I could think of would be like a contracted employee with another outside agency that might be coming on campus, like a construction company or something.
But on all the contracts we have, that's all covered under the contracts that they can't be.
Okay. Can you think of any other example of like?
So I'm gonna
I can't
spitball
think
here,
of
but
specifics,
so,
but I
mean, we're
can research it further. And
still talking about assemblies and things like that. What if a family member or a family friend who was not the custodial parent?
That's within the realm, though.
Right.
That's within the realm.
Yeah, the decision.
But it says they're a custodial parent, but I'm
like grandpa,
or
an aunt or uncle.
But we're never going to have notice of that within 14 days.
No, so we
So
would
that
prevent
would be a
them
no.
when they showed up and we scanned them in, they would be sent home and they'd be told, I'm sorry, we have to provide 14-day
Yeah, so that-
notification.
Yeah.
So that would be our way of controlling that. And that's part of the reason you need that language, why I'm recommending that you keep that language in there. Just so you're not tying your hands in the event something unforeseen happened.
I don't want to tie our hands, but I just would like some more information because it seems like it's still like, we don't really know what could happen, that why we would need this.
I think it's the only
so-
example I can think of is family members, not the parents themselves, but grandpa, an uncle that wants to
Yeah.
attend, and we find out they're sex offenders. If they haven't given us a notice for us to provide that 14 days in advance, we would not allow them on campus. We would have a policy that demonstrates that.
So, like somebody said for an assembly or something, or like
Sporting event.
sporting events, we don't scan those people. So, I mean, that.
We wouldn't know about that, but.
We don't scan when we do things like after hours, like back to school nights and all that stuff. You don't check in for that.
No,
We don't currently, but we are actually looking into it. The Raptor system now has a new platform called Event Safe, where you can provide tickets to people electronically, and then when they come in, you would scan them through Raptor, and it would pop up with Megan's Law.
But
Now,
also
we haven't-
during the instructional time, there's award ceremonies that family members could be attending, and they do go through the scanning.
But do they have a legal obligation to be there?
No, if they are not the parent, our policy is saying we have to have notified our parents 14 days in advance. And so if they haven't given us that opportunity, then we won't be able to let them in.
If there was an aunt or a grandpa or whatever, do we have to legally, even with the 14 days notice, allow them on, do they have an obligation, being that they're not a parent or guardian?
So I'm going
And
to ask.
maybe that's where that minor
I think the
offense comes in,
14-day
why would we?
The 14-day notice gives us something to stand on when we tell the person they're not permitted on campus.
Okay, I
So
see, I
what
see.
if- So
I see.
I'm going to go what I think is maybe down a little bit of a creepy road. But,
It's all right, yes.
so let's say I live across the street from the school and I don't know a single kid who goes there, but I just kind of like watching kids go to plays, and that's, and I'm a registered sex offender. Like, but I told you I was coming 14 days before. Are you going to let me in?
No.
No.
Absolutely not.
I feel that way too, but what does this policy say about
I don't know,
that?
yeah.
Yeah.
It says that we would only allow them in limited circumstances. So I think we would be able to say you have no valid reason. Just because you like watching kids doesn't give you a reason to be participating in a school activity.
That's my point of contention, is
Right.
that I need to know what are some of those limited circumstances?
Is this
Okay.
strictly
Yeah.
K-12 school sites?
I'm
Is this
sorry?
strictly K-12 school sites?
Yes.
Okay. So because we have to accept sex offenders at certain levels for our adult ed program. When they're going to San G, that's the campus is San G, and the adult ed program is on San G. If there's a registered sex offender going on next
As a
to that
student?
campus, would that play into this scenario?
Not the way it's written, no.
They're two separate campuses.
Can you bring back some more information?
I can, definitely. I'll come back with scenarios where, what limiting circumstances would be.
Thank you.
Yes, definitely.
I agree with you.
I
that
understand.
I want all the provisions and all the coverage for the district, but, this is a big thing.
Yes.
And the mama bear comes out, and I just can't let it go that easy.
Well, that's why we're here, Melissa.
It's my night tonight. Yes. I saved up all my energy from missing last time. So thank you
Okay,
for that.
so-
I appreciate that very
no
much.
problem.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else on this one?
No, I have the exact same concern, so I'm good. Okay. But we have a motion and a second, so
So,
David, you motioned, you want to withdraw your motion?
you want to revise your motion?
To table it and bring it for third reading.
This is the first reading of this board policy, so maybe bring it back to second reading.
Well, we already have a motion and a second, so we have a procedural issue.
Do you want to
So-
rescind your second?
Yes,
Okay, I'll rescind my first. There we go.
there you go.
Okay.
Done.
So,
Move on to the next item.
I'd like to move to table this item to the next meeting. Is that, wait, we've never done this. Is that how that works?
you're
No,
the
it'll just come
president,
back
you
for a
set the
second
agenda,
reading.
so-
Okay, all right. We will bring this back in our next meeting of the board. Item 12.9, conduct a second reading and adopt Beaumont Unified School District's board policy and administrative regulations regarding business and non-instructional operations in the 3000s listed in the summary.
After the last one, I don't want to move this.
I'll move approval.
I'll second and say thank you for the changes.
All right, Melissa and Susie. All right, discussion.
Good.
All right, hearing none, call for the vote. I was really kind of disappointed. The last one was fun. And the motion carries. Finally, on to 13. 13.1, approve the quarterly report on Williams uniform complaints for the third quarter of 2025-2026 school year. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, discussion. Hearing none, call for the vote. And the motion carries. Item 13.2, receive a report of the formal complaint. Excuse me. Formal complaints filed in the district for the third quarter of 2025-2026 school year.
So moved.
So received.
Say it's what it should
So received.
We received.
Report received.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 13.3, approve the comprehensive school safety plans listed below. Do I hear a motion?
I move approval.
Second.
Discussion?
Just a thank you to all of the, I don't know if I'm on or not, yeah, okay. The administrators here and all the work that you put in with those. Those are just so important. And so I appreciate the thoughtful consideration and then also the boots on the ground of implementing what's written in the plans and the practicing and the drills and all of that. It means a lot to me and the community, according to the bond survey. So we appreciate that.
That was good.
That was a good one.
Yes. Yeah, thanks to all of you for all of the work necessary to get these done. Call for the vote. Motion carries. Item 14.1, approve a new job description for the position of Research, Learning, and Data Coordinator. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. And the motion carries. Item 14.2, approve a memorandum of understanding between Beaumont Unified School District and California School Employees Association and its Beaumont Chapter 351 regarding the revisions and title change to job descriptions for the buyer and Medi-Cal technician position. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. Item 14.3, adopt resolution 2025-26-36, proclaiming May 13th, 2026 as California Day of the Teacher. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Susie.
Second.
David. Any discussion?
Deserve more than a day.
Yes, they deserve more than a day, and they deserve as much recognition and tacos as we can throw at them.
Yes.
Call for the vote. And the motion carries. Item 14.4, adopt resolution 2025-26-37, proclaiming the week of May 17th to the 23rd, 2026 as the week of the classified employee. Do I hear a motion?
Yes, I move for approval.
Second.
Discussion?
Yay for all the classified employees.
Yes. So in the Army, they have a phrase that the NCO Corps is the backbone of the Army, and that the leaders brought up from the bottom and the workers that they lead are what holds the whole thing upright. And the classified employees are sort of the NCO and enlisted corps of a school district, and I think I feel confident in saying that they are the backbone of the school district. So
Yeah.
thank you for all the work they do. All right, call for the vote. And the motion carries. Item 14.5, approve the certificated personnel assignment order listed on the report dated April 7th, 2026. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. And the motion carries. Item 14.6, approve the classified personnel assignment order listed on the report dated April 7th, 2026. Do I hear a motion?
Move for approval.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. And the motion carries. Item 14.7, approve the administrative and confidential personnel assignment order listed on the report dated April 7th, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Susie and David? Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote.
President Brown, members of the board, Superintendent Kakish, cabinet, colleagues, and guests. We are happy to announce the appointment of Megan Cotton as the new elementary principal of Three Rings Ranch Elementary School. Megan began her career with Beaumont Unified School District in 2018 as a special education teacher and has most recently served as the interim principal at Three Rings Ranch Elementary School. She also served as an assistant principal at Beaumont High School. Prior to joining our team, Megan served as a special education teacher in Moreno Valley and Corona Norco Unified School District. Mrs. Cotton earned her Bachelor of Arts in Kinesiology and her Master of Arts in Education at California Baptist University. Please join us in welcoming Megan Cotton to her new position.
President Brown, members of the board, Superintendent Kakish, cabinet, colleagues, and community, I just want to say thank you so much. Being a part of Beaumont for this many years has just been such a blessing to me, and I'm really excited to continue serving in a new capacity, so thank you.
Mrs. Cotton. So I wanted to take a minute to say that Three Rings Ranch has been my home for almost 25 years. And the principal of that school is a very important position to me personally, and I feel very confident.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Yep. And I just want to say that I think you're amazing, and I know you'll do a wonderful job.
Thank you.
As you already have.
That's right. Thank you.
Sorry you had to wait so long. Whenever this is.
It's okay. It was worth the wait, so thank you. Thank you.
All right, item 15.1, conduct a public hearing and receive comments on the fee justification report for new residential and commercial industrial development, and to consider and respond to all comments received by the district related here thereto. I will open this hearing at 8:25.
President Brown, Board of Trustees, we do have a presentation for this item.
Okay.
This has to do with level 1 fees. Every 2 years, we bring this report to the Board of Trustees to adopt. And what this does, it maximizes our developer fees to match what the State Allocation Board has adopted. The State Allocation Board adopted it in January, so we're trying to meet that and justifying that we could increase those fees to that level. These are statutory fees, and with us presenting is Mr. Justin Jorgen with Ken Alex, who's going to go with a brief presentation.
Thank you. As stated, my name is Justin Bjorgen, and I work with Key Analytics, and we prepared the developer fee justification report for you guys to review tonight. As Mr. San Martin noticed, the developer fees are intended to help mitigate the impact created by new development on school facilities within the school district's boundaries. So these are fees that are charged on new development within the school district. The governing board authorizes the levy or the imposition of these school fees to offset these impacts. And in order to justify the increase in the level 1 fees, the board must adopt the fee justification report, which is before you tonight. The school fee justification report serves as the basis for justifying the levy of the level 1 fees and presents the documents necessary for the nexus between the required findings by state law. Every even-numbered year, the State Allocation Board increases the amount of the level 1 fees statewide based on a cost construction index. In January of 2026, the State Allocation Board increased this fee from $5.17 per square foot for new residential development to $5.38 per square foot of residential development. They also increased the commercial and industrial fees from 84 cents per square foot to 87 cents per square foot, which represents roughly a 4% increase from the 2024 levels. Through the analysis of the calculation of the fee, we use the school district's current enrollment numbers, we look at current school capacity, we look at the future residential development at the district build-out, and we utilize the actual school costs for constructing new school development. We've determined that the actual impact of new residential school, or the actual impact of new residential development on the school district is $26.11. Because this $26.11 is greater than the state mandatory or statutory fee of $5.38, the school district can justify the imposition of the increased level 1 fee. It's good to note that this $26.11 is due to a lot of the growth that the school district's had in the last decade. We're always building schools. We've had new students or increased enrollment every single year over the last decade, so that kind of puts a lot of stress on the facilities team to build new school facilities. So I just wanted to highlight that sometimes the gap between the $5.38 and the $26.11 of the actual impact is made up from state fees, but can also be made up through other fees or other ways to impact the residential development, such as a Melrose district or a CFD, are going out for a general obligation bond. Part of the study has a commercial and industrial component to it. We have to justify that fee as well. The reason this is included is because new business attracts workers, and these workers have children that would attend the schools. So that's why there's a commercial industrial fee component to that. We were able to justify the full 87-cent fee for all types of all types of industrial and commercial development except for self-storage, which had a 56 per square foot impact, mainly due to the size of a self-storage commercial unit and the amount of employees they would have is significantly less than a normal commercial building. Developer fees are typically or can only be used on basically growth capital facility projects. So an appropriate use of them would be classroom additions, interim housing, additions to libraries or gymnasium or performing arts centers or restroom facilities. Inappropriate uses of a developer fee would be regular maintenance or deferred maintenance or any type of asbestos removal. Part of the approval of this fee is noticing the interested parties and the development community of this increase, which we've done through the notice of public hearings. We posted these information about this notice of public hearings in the local papers on March 26th and April 2nd. So after the public hearing today and if the board approves the increased rates, we will notify those interested parties in the development community of the increased rates on April 8th, and the new fees would go into effect 60 days after approval. Are there any questions about the level 1 fee or the calculation? All right, thank you.
Yeah, just looking at the list of appropriate and inappropriate, I'm not seeing like new schools being able to be built out of these fees that we'll be collecting.
Oh yeah, that definitely, any growth capital facility project, so a new school would definitely fall under that category.
They could fall into that.
Yes, they definitely
But
would fall.
It doesn't amount to enough that.
No, not on its own, unfortunately. The gap is just too big, so there's other funding sources that the district needs to utilize to build a full school.
How close are we to level 2? Are we close?
We are very close, and that's the next presentation. So, thank you for the segue.
Okay.
All right. And so this is an information and action item. So let's begin discussion at. Oh.
You already opened it, so no.
I opened it?
Yes,
So can we get a motion?
I'll move approval.
Susie? And a second? David? Okay, and then discussion.
We need to close the public hearing first.
I'm sorry?
We would need to close the public hearing first before taking action.
So we close the public hearing before discussion? Because it says open the public hearing, discuss the public hearing, and close the public hearing.
Presentation of public comments. I apologize. I'm Nicole Falsis. I'm an attorney with Atkinson Andelson. I help review the report and prepare the materials.
Okay.
I just wanted to ensure that we closed the public hearing, but for discussion, that would have been public comments from the
Oh, okay.
public. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
discussion here means public comment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Do we have any public comments? All right, no public comments, so that
Can we
was
close
it,
it?
8:31, and then we will close the hearing at 8:33. And, okay,
Now we do a motion.
15.2.
okay, so
Well,
then 15, no, it says info and action.
Is the action-
Yeah, in 15 point, no,
Oh,
no, 15.2 is a different motion.
15.1 is the public hearing,
Right.
and 15.2, it adopts the resolution for this item.
Okay.
Based on previous requests, we separate the public hearing from the actual action.
Yeah.
But the action to open the hearing
Oh,
and
okay.
to close the hearing, that's
All
an
right,
action.
that's the action, okay.
So that's why we put info action.
All right, sorry.
Because you have to take an action to open and close the hearing.
That's a technicality.
Yes.
I don't like
They don't
that
have
one.
to take an action, just I do. All right, so moving on to item 15.2. 15.2, adopt resolution 2025-26-33, approving the reported fee justification report for new residential and commercial industrial development. Do I hear a motion?
I move to adopt.
I'll second.
Melissa and Susie. Any discussion? Besides talking about how I blundered that whole last thing.
No.
But you're still new, man.
Yeah, whatever. All right. Hearing none, call for the vote. Of course it is. Well, now I know how to do it.
I swear.
All right, and the motion carries. Item 15.3, let's do this all over again. Conduct a public hearing to receive comments on the school facilities needs analysis and to consider, respond to, and approve all comments received by the district, if any, related hereto, and adopt an alternative school fees. I will open this at 8:39.
Thank you, President Brown. This
34, sorry. If I could read a clock. Thank you, Mays.
This item is also public hearing and then adoption of the
Yep,
resolution.
that's fine.
And this is, unlike level 1 fees, this is level 2 fees. Level 2 fees is, we bring it to you every year as an annual report that we do to increase and adopt a level 2 fees, which is only for new residential. Now, level 1 fees is for residential additions and commercial industrial. Level 2 fees is only for new residential. And Justin, Mr. Bojorgan will give us a brief presentation with more detail on level 2 fees.
Good evening. I'm still Justin Bjorgen, and I'm here to just talk about the level 2
glad
fees
you didn't change your
for
identity.
the school district. The government code surrounding developer fees allows a school district to impose a level 2 fee if they meet 2 of the 4 following criteria. The first being if there's substantial enrollment in that school district, forcing them to go on a year-round track for school. The school district doesn't currently meet that criteria, but they do meet the other 3, which would be the school district placing a general obligation bond on the ballot that received 50 plus 1% of the vote. The school district did that in November 2024, so they're able to impose a level 2 fee because of that. They also have a incurrence of obligation of at least 30% of their bonding capacity. So the district has that based on the outstanding general obligation bonds of the school district. And then the final criteria that allows for the imposition of a level 2 fee is that at least 20% or over 20% of the teaching stations are in relocatable classrooms. So because the school district qualifies for those, they are able to impose a level 2 fee if it's approved by the board. The level 2 fee calculation is very similar to the level 1 fee calculation, although except for the fact that it has time limits on it. So in the level 1 fee calculation, we can look at the build out of the school district or the development of the school district until build out. But for the level 2 fee, we can only focus on development that's planning in the next 5 years. Same thing with student enrollment. We're able to use all student enrollment to generate student enrollment factors for the level 1 fee. But for the level 2 fee, we have to focus on the students that were generated from homes that were built within the last 5 years. So it kind of creates a different type of criteria. In the level 1 fee, we're able to use the actual school cost to justify the amount, but unfortunately in the level 2 fee, we're mandated to use the state funding grants for school sites, which is significantly lower than the actual costs. So when we put all those calculations into our model for level 2 fees, we were able to justify a level 2 fee of $6.19. Which is higher than the current level 2 fee, which is $5.53. If approved, this level 2 fee would be good for the next year and would expire a year from today. This page has a history of kind of the level 2 fees that have been charged by the school district since 2018, 2019. They were unable to justify a level 2 fee from 2021 to 2023 because they didn't meet all the criteria to do so. But fortunately, the school district has been able to meet the criteria and could impose a level 2 fee if the board approves it. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about the level 2 fee.
I do have one question. So if we do our bond and the bond passes, does this stay for the full year or does this go back to level 1?
This would stay for the full year.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Opening the floor for public discussion. Sorry, microphone's up. Opening the floor for public discussion. That is at 8.
We opened it at 8:34.
Now it is. Yeah. 8:38, and then closing the meeting at 8:39. Okay. Item 15.4, adopt resolution 2025-26-34, approving the school facilities needs analysis and adopting alternative school fees and making related findings and determinations. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Susie.
I'll second.
Melissa. All right. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 16.1, we will receive a report from the California School Employees Association and its Beaumont Chapter 351. In the absence of the president, we will receive the report from the information officer for the district.
Good evening, Superintendent Ms. Kish, President Jeff Brown, board, cabinet members, and colleagues. On behalf of the California School Employees Association, Beaumont 351 Executive Board, and President Frank Hernandez, I am going to give their statement. First, we would like to take a moment to thank the board and Superintendent Kikish for your support in approving the Para-Educator Conference that was held in March. It truly means a great deal to our classified staff. They gain valuable training and strategies, along with confidence and inspiration that carry over into stronger support for our students and school communities. Even though we are still about a month away, we would also like to thank the board for approving Classified Appreciation Week in May. This recognition means a lot to our classified staff who do not always feel seen or recognized for their consistent hard work and dedication. Their commitment continues to make a meaningful difference in the lives of our students. Additionally, we were able to reach an agreement on a memorandum of understanding for a job description and title change within the department. This change helps ensure the role more accurately reflects the work being done, while also creating an additional classified position to better support the department. As we move into the next few months, we're looking forward to a busy time of celebrating our students. It's one of the best parts of what we do, getting to see and recognize all they've accomplished. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Receive a report from Beaumont Teachers Association. I do not see a representative present.
Send a message that he won't be able to make.
That's fine. Receive a report from the Beaumont Administrator Confidential Management Employees Group.
Good evening, Board President Brown, Superintendent Kikish, board members, cabinet, colleagues, community. I know it's been a long meeting, so I appreciate your patience. I wasn't here the last couple meetings because I was actually traveling up north in Sacramento, advocating on behalf of Beaumont Unified. Too many people to celebrate not to take a moment to do so. So some congratulations. Beaumont Middle College High School, California Distinguished School in its 4th year. Can't even believe it's saying that. That's crazy. Only 10 high schools in Riverside County. Glenview High School, Model Continuation School from the California Department of Ed. Benicia Carr, Dr. Benicia Carr is a rock star. There's no other way to say it. AXA Region 19 Awards, huge congratulations. Dr. Brown, Curriculum Instruction Administrator of the Year, Personnel Human Resource Administrator of the Year, Jennifer Castillo, also Mosaic Inclusivity Award, and Special Education Administrator Gabby Toledo, our Director of Special Ed. Amazing, amazing team. RACSM, so Western Region County of Riverside Associated School Managers, say that really fast. Dr. Mary Sines, Middle School Principal of the Year. As Ms. Kikish mentioned earlier, California Continuation Education Association Awards, Superintendent of the Year, Ms. Kikish. Dr. Benicia Carr, Administrator of the Year. If she could just wear all the hats she does, she should get Administrator of the Year for every hat she wears. I'm going to say that until, forever. Katie Romero, Teacher of the Year, Taryn Lohr, Classified of the Year, and of course, super excited for the CTE Medical Pathway Exemplary Program of the Year as well. As far as human resource concerned, I know this was from a couple meetings ago, but I absolutely have to thank Melena Cove, who's going to be retiring at the end of this year after 20 years of service in Beaumont Unified School District. She's also has been a leader and backed me on a number of times, was a huge support for me personally when I came into a leadership role and backed me. So I want to thank Melena for everything she's done to support our school district and me as a leader as well. I also want to thank and wish best of luck to Mandy McClure, who's changing roles. Mandy's awesome, and I wish her the best of luck in her new role. Also want to thank and wish best of luck to Catherine Mayfield, assistant principal at Palm. I know she is an incredible part of the team that led to a California Distinguished School Award and some incredible academic gains on CASP over the years. So I want to, she's going to be moving out of the area, and I just want to thank her for everything she's done at multiple school sites within Beaumont. Huge congratulations to Megan Cotton. I've had a chance to work with Megan now in a couple different roles. Very, very well deserved for promotion to principal. She's doing an awesome job as interim, and I know that Mr. Shear at the high school is already crying. And finally want to welcome Michelle Barron, HR Confidential Secretary to Beaumont Unified School District. So thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you, Dr. Breyer. All right, 16.4, receive a report from board member Melissa Williamson.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to second everything that was just said. Super proud of all of our staff. A couple of weeks ago, I had the opportunity to attend the Best Gala. I'm not sure which one that is. Susan Aguilar-Martinez and her team did an amazing job at planning an event that was student-focused, engaging, and fun for adults, and successful at fundraising for scholarships for Beaumont students. Supervisor Extian Gutierrez was so encouraging with his keynote remarks. The highlight for me was Holly Jenkins, the teacher for special education for adult students, who spoke about the success of the Beaumont Bean and brought several, I think 3 of her students with her, and I don't know how she held it together. But they described perfectly the impact that these vital programs have on our adult students and their success after high school. I would have just been bawling by like the second sentence because I was having a hard time holding it together in the audience. It just was so inspiring. So thank you for all of that work. I'm just so thankful for the dedication of the Best Foundation towards supporting and serving Beaumont Unified School District. Also, the Week of the Young Child is April 11th through 17th. In the grand narrative of a student's life, the K through 12 years and college often get the most fanfare. But during this Week of the Young Child, let's acknowledge a simple truth. You cannot build a skyscraper on a shifting foundation. Plato said the beginning is the most important part of the work. Our early childhood educators are the ones who ensure that the foundation is rock solid. They are the ones who spark the curiosity that carries a student through high school and the confidence that carries them through adulthood. We owe them our deepest gratitude for being the first and most important step in that journey. Frederick Douglass describes this well, saying, "It is easier to build strong children than repair broken men." While the rest of the world sees child's play, we know that our educators are seeing and shaping the future leaders, parents, and citizens of our community. Thank you for the tireless work that all of our childhood early educators do to ensure that our youngest students have the best start to their educational journey and a bright beginning for the rest of their lives. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Williamson. Receive a report from board member Susie Laura.
Okay, I'll third what Michael Breyer said. Because she's second, I'll third. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Thank you, Ms. Laura. Receive a report from board member David Sanchez.
I'm all choked up. Congratulations to our administrative group, all of our employees, and I'm so glad I didn't get any reports during Easter break. Our kids did wonderful out in the community. I was a little nervous because of what occurred beforehand, but everything still shined as I expect and I hope for. Other than that, the month of May is right in front of us, and everything becomes a blur. So this meeting, everybody should go home and hit the hay.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Dr. Lanston Sylvester could not be with us this evening. And 16.8, receive a report from board member Jeff Brown. I just wanted to thank everybody for your resilience and patience with us, basically. I mean, the consultant isn't here anymore, but and it's not our job to be, but we were not, we were not fluffy or flowery with him. And again, that's not for us to do. We are the community, we are the representation of the community, and we are here to hold the district and the consultants and the people that we hire accountable to the community for what we're trying to do and what we're trying to build. I'm also I think, as Ms. Laura mentioned earlier, I think the level 2 developer fees, qualifying for those is a positive step in the right direction. And as was mentioned earlier by a different representative, that the previous failed bond is part of what got us there. So even if we do have a bond and it fails, a failed bond is a pathway to at least some funding. It isn't anywhere near the amount of funding that a bond would provide, but it is a pathway to something. So these are all things that we as a board will obviously weigh very considerably on as we move forward with this. But I want to thank everybody for their time and patience and congratulate all of the administrators for the hard work that they do every day, especially the ones that are being recognized. I'm not going to go over the list. You've heard the list from several people. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. So we do not have any items to go back into closed session for, so.
I move we adjourn the meeting.
Moved by Susie, seconded by Melissa. Is there any discussion? Are you guys sure?
Actually, no, I'm just kidding.
All right, call for the vote.
Kaden has to get up in the morning.
Everybody has to get up in the morning, except for me.
Oh my goodness, the motion carries. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
I'm tired. It was good. So did I. It's not like you were the only one.
Yes.
It was very good. That was a good meeting.
Yeah, I'm about to ask for Thomas.
That's his job.